Alright guys, so let's get going with our topic. Ready with fresh Azure account? No way, man. How do you pull this out? How do you pull this off? It's amazing. I'm stuck with that account. I have to take classes from you, from Nazmal, how to create a fresh Azure account. And for you have to start this. You have to give me that session because I'm stuck with my account for 4 years now, and that's horrible. How are you pulling this off? So we will have detailed chat, hopefully. Uh, there has to be some secret here, right? So otherwise, they don't let me create. Maybe I'm in the blacklist, maybe. Uh, alright guys, let us go ahead. Yes, Waqas is also saying, share your tips for renewing, or I think he's creating a new account. So yeah, maybe if you cancel subscription, maybe Microsoft does remove your records, and then you're creating another one, and they don't recognize you, and then oh, I never thought of that. I never canceled a subscription. Oh, you do a cancel subscription. Okay. Point to be noted, me lord. So cancel subscription, and then yeah. So so yes, that you're able to subscribe again, correct? Zooming in 3, 2, 1. So Sam is also thinking that you're related to Bill Gates, and he says, "Hey, if it's Nosmol, just keep it, new. If it's someone else, just block everyone else." Okay, so maybe that's what's going on here. But you have to give us some classes, guy. Nosmol, how are you pulling this off? Okay. And yeah. Oh, okay. So let's get going, guys. And we were talking about. First of all, you need to log into Azure. Hopefully you are. Second thing is a topic that I asked some more time to recorrect the labs that astonishingly were not working in the before the last class. Thank God I checked. Otherwise, well, we could have gone for. Okay, but yeah, theory is not something that I would really follow or try to present. A theory, there's some more theory there, but that's security. Okay, guys. So what we're talking about is Azure Dockers and containers, and it's not doctors, it's Dockers and containers here. So learn how to run containerized apps using Docker containers with Azure Container Instances (ACI). So that's one terminology that you need to remember. Now it's so much in every company. They're all going for containers, so we need to understand what are containers, what is Docker, and what is Kubernetes. So well, we can run containers in Azure Container Instances, control what happens when your container exits, use environment variables to configure your container when it starts, attach a data volume to persist data when your container exits. Okay, so right now I'm just reading it out, but what are we talking about? It's still the big question. So let's get down to kind of introduction to containers. So let's try to get to know containers, right? So introduction to Azure Container Instances. Containers offer a standardized and repeatable way to package, deploy, and manage cloud applications. So it's faster than virtual machines, and they offer specific application environment to an application, so it does not have incompatibility issues, any application. So definitely application developers, it's the heaven for those application developers that go for containers. But it's so much in now in Azure 103. I think they didn't have mention of that, but Azure 104 they have mentioned it, that or the administrator exam that now you need to know containers as well. So Azure Container Instances let you run a container in Azure without managing virtual machines and without a higher level service. Well, anyway, let's try to go ahead a little, and then we're gonna be using some commands and trying to understand some uh, of the syntax there for the commands to create containers in our Cloud Shell inside Azure. So what are containers? A standardized unit of software. A container is a standard unit of software that packages up code and all its dependencies so the application runs quickly and reliably from one computing environment to another. So again, well, there will be so much definitions coming your way, but there is some comparison there as well for containers. So I'm going to be going for virtual machines and containers. What's the difference? But why use Azure Container Instances? So Azure Container Instances is useful for scenarios that can operate in isolated containers, including simple applications, task automation, and build jobs. So what I'm talking about, or what am I talking about? So let's go back to the drawing board, and the thing is that suppose first of all the scenario is that you want to install this is your hypervisor here, and it you can just create virtual machines inside, right? So suppose this is your ESXi VMware ESXi hypervisor or Microsoft Hyper-V hypervisor. Hopefully we all know what is hypervisor. So it offers you can install that small software on a physical server, and then it lets you host virtual machines. So suppose there's a scenario that you have a virtual machine here, and that virtual machine you are installing here AutoCAD application, AutoCAD, and that's a big application. And once you start you've done the installation after long list of click and install this and install that, select this feature, that feature. So AutoCAD installed. Now the boss says that, hey, on the same machine, because we have all of the machines for separate purposes, so can you install on the same machine Adobe Photoshop as well, or Adobe Photoshop, however you want to say that. So then you say that, hey boss, can we have another virtual machine? It's gonna be better. So boss says, no, we don't have actually another one, because all hypervisors have like 10-15 machines, and they are up to their neck filled with machines. We don't have enough hardware to operate more virtual. So the boss says, no, just install the other big application on this virtual machine where already another big application is there. So when you try to install, suppose, and it starts saying that, oh, first delete this or that file, and then I'm gonna get installed. So when you investigate, you see that, oh, those files are actually running AutoCAD. So this means there's some incompatibility between the two big applications. So you can't install Adobe Photoshop unless you remove some of the files of AutoCAD, which will then result in you can't run AutoCAD on this machine. So, but the boss says, no, we want to run both. So then there's that solution that normally has been used by developers for a decade now. It's a developer thing. First of all, it's if you're not a developer, you're not creating applications, then it would be or definitely a new concept for you. If you were a developer, you would have known that in Google Cloud, they have been running containers. Linux guys have been running containers. So what is container? Container, you can just create that specific environment for an application. So AutoCAD could be installed in a container. You don't have to really install the whole operating system here, but just the image of and some dependencies or smaller amount of files of an OS. Normally what happens is that you can install this in one container, and that container can be installed on top of this virtual machine as well. Like there are many ways to deploy a container, but just I'm giving example of first example is that you have an OS here, right? And on top of an OS you can install a very small software called Docker, and that hosts containers. What are containers? A container offers any application a specific environment, and whatever dependencies and libraries they want to share, all those are in this container, and that container is very lighter than an application, and you can put that one container in this virtual machine on top of a Docker software, and then you can just put another container with Photoshop on the same virtual machine on the Docker software as well. So suppose that's a Photoshop. Now those software that you would not be able to install if you were told to install them both on some same operating system, so you won't be able to install. So but you can put them in a container, and then you can install them on top of a Docker, which is installed on top of an OS. So then you can go for another software, third software or fourth software in a container that are totally incompatible with each other, but since they're in the container, so they have their own specific environment, whatever dependencies, whatever libraries, whatever initial files they need for their environment to run this application, they can get whatever OS files they need, they can get from one OS that is down below here under the Docker. All the dependencies and libraries can be installed, or you can have some very light image of an OS like Ubuntu, like Linux, but very light image of that inside a container to keep the whole container very light, which means that the heavy application is on top of the basics of an operating system, which that application really needs for it to run. So when you install an operating system, there are so many other things that application does not need, right? So you can see a very lighter version of an OS is placed in an application in a container, which the application really need to for its basic survival, for its basic running. So the whole point here is that instead of deploying virtual machines with operating system, we deploy container which have very small set of files offered by operating system, and the application has only a specific environment for to be deployed inside the container. Then you can put that one container on the same virtual machine, second container on the same virtual machine, third container on the same virtual machine, with applications inside that do not touch each other. And second thing, then other thing, then you can migrate it to Azure, the same container that you were just working on, this virtual machine. You can migrate it on Linux environment. You can migrate the same container in AWS, Google Cloud, GCP, right, Google Cloud Platform, or Windows environment. Wherever you can migrate, they're portable, and they offer separate environment for virtual machines. So there's Bakal is asking, but did not you mention, as per definition in the beginning, we are not required VM to run app? So this is one example that I'm saying. No, when I say we do not require VM, where did I say that? Or where did the definition say that? Because it's not a VM. First of all, it's not a virtual machine. It's a container is different. Virtual machine is different. That's what I said. But second thing is that it can be run on top of a virtual machine, but it does not require for its running a virtual machine, right? So there are many ways to deploy that. You can deploy that directly on Azure. Underlying behind, they would have some kind of obviously infrastructure there. They can have a virtual machine in the background. Inside that virtual machine, you are running multiple containers, which means that they are much lighter, first of all, and they offer each application a specific environment for it to run without conflicting with the application that it is installed in another container. The two containers can be close together in one environment, network environment, but their files are not conflicting with each other anymore, right? They are inside their own specific environment, right? So that's one point to understand. Second is you can deploy it on top of an OS that is inside a virtual machine, or you can deploy it on top of the hypervisor as well. So suppose you got an hypervisor here. Again, my recommendation is try to go for VMware course. That's a must-have. So hypervisor, and on top of that hypervisor, you can put the containers. But normally, this is exactly what I've created here. hypervisor. But yeah, other example was that you can just install an operating system directly here. This example I actually already have created here. I was thinking, hey, didn't I just set that? So, or this, it used to be the environment, now it's not. But if you have installed an OS directly on a, physical machine, then you can still use that Docker software. In our 70-MCSE MCSA classes in 70-740, which is offered free in my LMS. So there, one of the last labs is that how to install a Docker on Windows Server 2016, and then how to deploy a container on top of a Docker. If you go for that lab as well, which is offered free there in LMS, so it would be very beneficial for you to understand that, oh, on an operating system I can install a container directly. But what we are going to do is we're going to go for deploying the container on top of Azure, and obviously for a container you need an image of what? Image either of just an OS, but what's the benefit of an OS, right? It's specifically for application. So image where you will read that, okay, underlying light OS. I'm just saying light again and again. It's not the full OS. Maybe you've heard about Windows Nano Server. So that's like a really light version of Windows. And then there is Windows Core. Yes, Command Line Server 2016, exactly. So Nano Server, and then there is Windows Server Core. That is a full operating system with command line, but it has Windows Server Core is a bigger command line version. But Nano Server is the one that is really small, and it supports very few like major applications like DNS and IAS, Internet Information Services, and one or two other applications. So very light version of Ubuntu, Linux Ubuntu, or CentOS, all the Linux flavors, hundreds of Linux flavors. So when you deploy a container, when you read the name of a container, hey, I want SQL Server container. Okay, so the name will be then some OS, either Linux or Windows, and SQL Server, right? So Linux or Windows, but it will be a very light. If you have the normal operating system inside a container, then not much difference you see between virtual machine and container, but there's a big difference between virtual machine and containers. Although containers seem like they work exactly like a virtual machine, but no, virtual machine has a full-fledged operating system here, and you can deploy, and it needs a CPU, a lot more CPU than container, a lot more RAM than container, a lot more storage than container. So it's bigger than container. It's not light, but container is light. We're gonna just try to explore more of the features there, then you will understand how light it is as compared to virtual machines. And it offers specific environment. You cannot migrate a virtual machine without making some basic changes in the virtual machine. Suppose I want you to migrate ESXi, VMware virtual machine, to Azure. So you have to first convert it into a Hyper-V virtual machine, and even there, when it becomes a VHDX disk, then you have to convert further that to .vhd disk, and then you can upload it to Azure, right? So if you want to migrate this virtual machine to Linux, then you maybe you can't, because it's a Windows virtual machine, or Linux has also its hypervisor that is called KVM. Then you have to do some conversions and then install it on this Linux machine, and it goes on. You have to make a lot of conversions to migrate a virtual machine from one platform to another. But containers, it is understood as there's one format there that you can migrate it to Azure, to Linux, to AWS, to GCP, to Windows environment as well. You can just, so they're portable, but the main thing is not that they are portable. Main thing is that they are much lighter, and they offer an application its all specific environment that it requires for it to run. So, and they are lighter in that way. You can just deploy hundreds of containers as well within a small hardware, or within a virtual machine, or within a hypervisor. So, but it's gonna get, so what I was talking about image, that you have to deploy an image inside a container. So it will be either Linux or Windows operating system, and then on top of that an application. So it will always be like that, right? So okay, we understand that containers need images, and it will be always an application, you know. So Nazmul says in chat, can I run more than one application in a single container? Well, that would not keep it lighter unless the application, two applications are compatible with each other. But containers are offering one application a specific environment and be as light as possible, right? So deploying another container would be a best idea for even for small deployment, small application server. Suppose you're deploying web server, so you don't want to then deploy a SQL server, which is, well, heavy, inside that container as well. That then better use the virtual machine, right? If we're gonna go complicated, but this is light deployment, fast deployment, and deployment has to be scalable as well. So that's why the lighter it is, the better. It can be portable, then it can start fast, right? So some of the features will be lost if we are deploying multiple applications. That's what not it is made up for. That's not the purpose of container then. Yep.
Question. So as you said, operating system on Hyper-V virtual machine, so it's gonna have a CPU, RAM, and SSD drive or whatever. So the same, like these resources we are gonna assign to the container as well.
Yes. So container would be given whatever CPU is needed for the application, and RAM would be assigned to it. But compared to virtual machine, it's gonna take all that much lesser than virtual machine.
So, so for the virtual machine, so we have to assign those resources according to the container requirement as well. So it's gonna take all the resources from the OS. It's gonna run, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And this is one way to deploy. This is not the only way to deploy containers. This is just the start of the example that, okay, this is the way we can deploy, as well as then there are more ways coming now, where you don't need a virtual machine already to be there. You don't need to plan having a virtual machine and then plan that, oh, I'm going to be having 4 or 5 containers on this machine, so I should be giving CPU, RAM, SSD this much. So there are other ways where you don't need to worry about virtual machines at all, or underlying virtual machine. So that's where the cloud comes. But in your, suppose right now you have VMware Workstation, so you can create a virtual machine inside there, and you can deploy a container there. But for that, you just need to install a small software called Docker, and then you can create get containerized image from. Okay, so now I'm just saying another thing. Containerized images. You need to download the containerized image. Suppose you want Windows Nano Server with web server, IIS. IIS is Internet Information Services, right? So which is the web server. So containerized image of Windows with IIS. If you want that, then you would want to go for docker.com. What is this? Docker.com, right? This is the main repository on the planet Earth where you have all the images available for Docker, right? All the images available in that website. You can get the software from docker.com, as well as huge image repository. Now you can just download the image from there, container image from there, and just run it anywhere else. You can download the image from there and upload it to Azure, upload it to Linux, or you can give a path to that image, which we are about to give when we are creating a container. So that path will simply go to the website, and it will just search for that image, and it will just download from there quickly into Azure. So if we go to docker.com here, well, this is one container that I tested, and docker.com. So get started with Docker, and well, main purpose of this to provide images for all kind of software and whatever combination of software, this operating system with this software, this operating system with this software, There's containerized images. If we just go for containerized images, just Google it. So what is a container? So docker.com. It still goes to docker.com, but if there's a Stackify here, Docker images versus container. Okay, that's just saying that. But if you want to download, there's OpenShift as well for Docker images. Main repository of images will be on the docker.com that Planet Earth would be getting it from, but obviously there would be other sites as well. Docker images download. If you go for just download, then okay, Unsplash also has images, and then docker.com again. So yeah, main repository is this, but you can just grab it from hub.docker.com. That's where 100,000 container images from software vendors, open source. So I'm gonna go for hub.docker.com and grab the images from there. Somebody created those images. Oh, okay, they need some identification, Docker ID. You have to sign up first and then sign in, and they were. So basically, one image is for one container. Yes, one app, exactly. One image is for one app, and that's the main idea behind keeping it light. So and keeping one app's environment intact, right? So suppose we put another app here. Suppose it's AutoCAD, and then we put a WinZip here as well. WinZip has the latest update, right? Suppose that latest update might have some problem with the latest update of AutoCAD, right? When you're patching, that is called patching, right? So when you're patching, so that's the main thing, that you want to keep the integrity of the application intact, and some other changes should not disturb that application as well. And for long term, you can just keep on updating. You patch only AutoCAD in this container. Maybe you want to deploy a WinZip on some other container and just patch that. WinZip is too small. Maybe Photoshop, SQL Server, or any other big application you go for. So you just patch that application in that container. Keep that container clean with any incompatibilities for that application that could arise from multiple application deployment, right? So that's why it should be same, but technically if they came up with multiple applications, yes, it should be possible. But that's not the purpose of containers. So Nazmul says, how can we get a Docker image for a custom legacy app? Yeah, if they created that, if they who, if the Docker website allowed somebody to upload the app for legacy, that is one of the main reasons that container is still there, that you can even run very old applications which suppose were compatible with Windows 2008, and you only have Windows 2012, Windows 2016, maybe Windows 3.1 if you have ever used that. So legacy application can be run on this if they have the container for that. Somebody may have created a old application container with specific files that person has provided after searching from across the internet. So you would be then very lucky to have that container image. So you have to just look from 100,000 images there. And Adul says all the images we can download is for common apps, right? Yes, all whatever they have uploaded, and obviously all mainstream apps are there. The only reason is, you have that available in virtual machine as well, right? But why are you then going for containers? Because they are lighter, they are easier to deploy, they are faster to deploy, and they are lighter to run, and they are portable. You can migrate them easily. So that's something that virtual machine does not offer. Not everything of that virtual machine offers, but containers do offer all that. Lighter, start fast, and then migratable, portable, you can say, right? So let's just go ahead a little and try to. I was saying that it will need an image. An image would be application and OS, but it will be very light version of OS. It will not be the whole OS there. So we're about to actually deploy Nano Server, Windows Nano Server with IaaS installed inside, which is Internet Information Services, or for web server, right? So that we can do. So before that, virtual machines versus containers, and that is where it is just showing. Okay, that diagram is too big. Oh, okay, too small. What I meant was. So virtual machines versus containers, there's that infrastructure, then there's a hypervisor, then there's a guest operating system, then this is a typical virtual machine scenario, right? So when you have Hyper-V or VMware, then you have one virtual machine, one application, second virtual machine, second application. We're talking about big applications, right? Suppose you're saying, hey, I can install easily Adobe Acrobat Reader. That's a small one, and WinZip. So that's what we're not talking about. We're talking about those applications that are big, and if installed in the same operating system, then they cannot survive. They will have incompatible files inside that operating system. One application will run, then the other will not run. So we're talking about those applications. That's where the container comes, right? Otherwise, for small software, yes, we have no problem already. So why should we go to containers then? So then application A only here, application B only here, C only here, and you can see that. But here when you come to containers, so infrastructure, then you just have an operating system, and runtime is we can say that it is either a Docker or any other application that they may have created, although it's just Docker normally that is there. Yes, there you go. So yeah, because asking runtime is Docker, yes. So runtime, which is either Docker, but I have to see that what other solution is there that hosts a lot of containers on top of it. Normally it is Docker, right? So, but runtime just also means that it's giving or providing those files live while they need it now. So everything is provided by that one source here, and it's in runtime. So application A, B, C, D, E, F. Now you have 6 applications on top of one operating system. Obviously, if you're going this way, though your infrastructure should have enough RAM, CPU, SSD, all that. But you have combined 6 applications in a small place, or in just one machine, instead of deploying so many other virtual machines where not 100% of the resources are being used for the application. Maybe it's just using 50% of CPU all the time, right? Maybe it's just using 60% of RAM or 40% of RAM during majority of the time. So you got more containers in that same infrastructure, more applications that are running nice without messing each other up, right? So if they can survive with each other easily, that's what the developers would love to do, that they can deploy easily. But that's just one container, second container, third container. What about if you want to deploy 40,000? Okay, no, that's too much. Maybe 2,000 containers, 100 containers there of the same application. So then we use Kubernetes for that. But we're gonna come back to that. But this is main difference that we're talking about, that I explained in my diagram as well. So virtual machines versus container: less development overhead, less resources consumed, smaller size, faster startup, reduced and simplified updates. So everything is, overhead is less than our virtual machine. So anyone would go for containers if they want. Whatever you do for maintenance of virtual machine, it's faster, lighter, and scalable. Then yes, you would go for containers. So Azure Container Instances offers the fastest and simplest way to run a container. Oh, Nazul says all these images are free. Well, yes, these are like you would install the trial version. So yes, but you have to simply pay for the license. Just purchase the license after deployment of the image. So it's just a custom installed application with that operating system in a containerized format. You just have to purchase a license, obviously. So on the planet Earth, nothing is free. So do we also patch container OS? If it needs, yes. So suppose it's you deployed that container nano server 1 year ago, right? So after 1 year, obviously there would be some latest files there. There might be some hackers who have created files for the 1 year old container. They found some vulnerabilities, so there will always be patches for whatever OS and application we use. Always there are patches there. So when we patch, then obviously it will be. So how do we patch? Obviously we have to install it and then connect to it. It's not that simple. I wanted to actually install a SQL server in a container, so we could do more with the container, right? So but whatever scripts people do give there, I have to really troubleshoot a lot of that. So last class also I was doing that, and then you know I don't know, it works with them, and then all of a sudden it just doesn't work with us. So I will give you that link to the SQL Server Labs where you can actually connect and create some databases and tables inside a container. That would be so interesting. So I'll be sharing those labs with you, which is just step by step exactly. When there are 1 million error coming, so then that really demoralizes. But yeah, we still have some labs. So, okay, what else? So, updates, not very frequent. Well, not very frequent, we can't guarantee that ever. If the vendor thinks there needs to be an update because of so many complaints coming from around the planet, so yes, the frequency of updates depends on the vendor software. Windows side, pretty much every month. Linux side, it's not every month, it's not that frequent. But this is, even if you had Linux and Windows on virtual machine, whatever frequency of updates coming there, that's much would be there as well in the containers. It depends on the vendor and how many updates they're releasing for what software. Yeah, for Nano maybe they have less exactly. So without having to provision any virtual machines and without having to adopt higher level service, so it's less headache when it comes to, but well, we're gonna see that now. So Azure Containers Instances, Virtual Machine, Container Group. So normally in the background, so here in Azure you deploy a container, right? So in front of you is a container, but in the background they have to put it somewhere, and we don't have to touch that. They, Azure, are handling whatever is whatever is in the background, Azure is handling that, right? So so that's the one thing that we need to understand, that in the background they might have a physical server with an operating system inside, or a virtual machine in the background. We just don't know because we cannot access that, but they are saying that in their diagram that yeah, when you deploy lots of containers, we have to put it somewhere. So normally it is a virtual machine where they put a container group, right? So that is, container group is exactly what it says, group of containers actually, right? So application A here, application B here, and in virtual machine they have to be deployed somewhere. So there's a normally a path there for that. So is this application only dealing with port 80? So port 80 you can open. This application may be dealing with an application. This application dealing with the traffic which requires port 5000 to be open. So in that case, you would just open that, and obviously you would need to have a public IP to access that if it is in the cloud, or private IP if it's in your environment. So that lab that I'm referring to, MCSA 70-740 for MCSA 2016 actually. So when you do deploy that, I would recommend that you deploy in your environment by following exactly that lab. So you will see that you can just connect with a private IP there, obviously. Okay, so yeah, in the background it will look like this: virtual machine and container group. So, so key benefits: fast startup times in just few seconds. Azure Container Instance ACI can start up containers. Public IP and DNS name, so you want to connect. Obviously, public IP. Custom sizes, so you can customize how much you RAM. So suppose you deployed a heavy application like SQL Server, obviously, and you have like 50,000 users or you have 10,000 users, so you would deploy multiple containers, lots of containers, and obviously the deployment itself will be quite fast. So custom sizes, you can just put this much RAM, this much SSD has to be given there. Normally hardware is taken care of in the background from the virtual machine, but obviously you will be charged for the storage. Both Linux and Windows containers, persistent storage. So obviously when you create a container, you can just map it to another file server, right? So that shared storage, uh, either that shared folder should be there, or you can just connect it with another volume that you can add in Azure and attach it to this container as well. So it should be persistent, so whenever container restarts, the storage should still be there, but you have to separately, you can connect separately as well, and it should be persistent. Like storage should always be there. So virtual network deployment, over in the VNet we can deploy. So now we know what is VNet in Azure. So in VNet you can deploy as many containers as you want, right? So other than that, getting started with ACI. ACI provides a rich set of Azure CLI commands we can use to manage our containers. Let's take a look in detail to all the commands I will be using. Seriously, I should have removed that, but I will say thank you to that guy whose page I copied here. Thank you, guy. Okay, so here, AZ container create. Now, guys, there are two ways you can run the commands in Azure. There is bash and there's PowerShell. Anyone knows what's a bash? Ever heard of bash before? There was so much bashing going on by people on that guy on the stage. It's not that bashing. So, what is bash? Ever heard of that? You know, maybe you know already what is it. So it is CLI for Linux, right? So it's like a command line for Linux, and you can just run commands in Linux with Bash. So these are the commands that we can give. So PowerShell is that you have a command, then a hyphen, and then the other letter there that makes a command in PowerShell. But in Bash or Linux based, it just is like that, right? So AZ container create, you can create a container, then AZ container delete, AZ container list will list all the containers that you've created, AZ container start, AZ container stop, show, and logs. So this is just one site. Let's create some containers in Azure for Linux and Windows. So let's go there to that, and then we're going to talk about security of containers as well. How does it look like? And it's going to be not very straightforward like virtual machines, right? So and we're not developers as well. So the thing is, if you have a lot of questions, so so there would be a limitation on those. Let's just go ahead and create that first, and I had to remove some errors, lots of errors there for this, but when we do it, it's like, hey, that's it, that's all. Yeah, I wish I had 100 labs there, and I would really be working continuously to have 100 labs or 200 labs, but there's just to create one lab takes a lot of time as well. Alright, guys, here, so you're inside Azure, yay, or yay. Okay, I'm gonna go to portal menu. First of all, I'm gonna check my resource groups here because I've messed up a lot. Well, okay, not a lot. So I have actually two resource groups here. So ignore what I'm doing now. Well, I'm just deleting those. Oh, there are three containers here. Yay. Okay. Anyway. So I'll just delete the whole resource group. You know that resource group is mucho importante. It lets you just delete everything that we've created from just one, as long as you keep on creating those. So anyway, this is one resource group, and then Cloud Shell storage. This is another one where I had all the Cloud Shell commands running, and it saves them. So what is Cloud Shell? What does it do? So anyone knows already what is Cloud Shell? Ever used Cloud Shell before? So this is in Azure, the Cloud Shell, this one. So when you hold your mouse over there, it says Cloud Shell, right? So okay, you guys have already used Cloud Shell. So it is that you don't have to download anything in your computer, and yes, PowerShell and Azure CLI, it goes with you. Like you're traveling and you don't have a computer with you, laptop with you, or tablet with you, and there's a machine provided in the other branch. You just connect to that and connect to your Azure, and your own shell is already there because it downloads the PowerShell or Bash into your storage account. So there's a storage account there that will be created, and then you will be able to download and create PowerShell. So whenever you connect from wherever, you don't have to actually download the PowerShell or configure it in your laptop or desktop. It's just going with you wherever you are going. So whenever you log in the browser, it's just in the browser because it's downloaded in your storage account, right? And storage account once created, it's up to you. You want to delete that. I'm just deleting that storage account now, this one, where my shell was stored, right? So That's what it is. And so guys, let's just go ahead and click that Cloud Shell. Okay, I forgot to delete that third resource group here as well. I think it's not gonna delete because I messed with it last time. I put that immutable thing. Seriously. Okay, so guys, I'm just gonna click that Cloud Shell. Okay, my resource group is gone. That's good. So let's click that Cloud Shell. So once we click that Cloud Shell here, so you will see that underlying you have no storage mounted here. So it will mount the storage to storage. It will mount that or create a PowerShell inside mounted storage. So it's going to create a storage account for that. So obviously storage will be charged when you create a storage account, right? So I'm on pay as you go. So I'm going to click that. Go ahead and create storage here. Oh yeah, so go for bash. Wakas has shared a picture here. Maybe you're all those who are following maybe seeing that. So I'm just gonna drag that here. So if you see this, go click bash. Although you can click PowerShell, and within that you can convert to bash as well. But go ahead and click bash for now. And then it takes some time to, set up the whole environment. And then you can just keep it that way. Otherwise, you can delete that storage. If it's a free account, yeah, just keep it until it is free. Otherwise, just get rid of it after usage, because you need to delete the storage account. Okay, so well, you can see that it's just connected for me, and you can see that there's bash and PowerShell. You can switch to anyone anytime, right? So bash and PowerShell. So well, so it is in bash right now, and we have certain commands that I'm gonna be pasting on your side, and you can just try those commands. So uh, so yeah, you saw that you have no storage, and then you select that storage. It's creating, and once it is created, so then we can just check that AZ group create. So obviously, when we start, we can create a resource group, and that would be a very good thing to do. Creating a resource group. So that's where learn deploy AC. So we can just the way we create resource group always in Azure. So we can just go for RG and 11Aug2020. So I'll be just copying that command to you. So you can create a resource group first, and obviously then whatever next you create, you have to keep adding this resource group there. And second thing, I think it should be smaller case. It's not gonna like it's Linux. It's not gonna like uppercase. So here. So that is creating a resource group before we create anything else. So that is being pasted here in WebEx chat as well as in WhatsApp. So that is first thing. So if your environment is ready, then go ahead and you should be in bash, and then right click and paste, or just type it. I feel a bit more lazy, so I'm just gonna go for AZ group create and then press enter. Now, and it just gives you that confirmation. So once you put this command there, this one, right? Then you would get this. So location is East US, managed by null. So yeah, we didn't put any who's managed by who. And then this is a resource group, and succeeded. So that's the main thing, right? So if the resource group has been created, so there are one machine. There's one machine that we can create first, and then we're gonna just create some more machines as well to check out. So If that is done here, then we can provide DNS name as well. Yes, we can do that. And there's this longer command now, and that is az container create is the command, and then you can see that the resource group. So I will just keep changing the resource group. I'll just put that resource group here before I copy it to you. So I'll just put that resource, change that resource. So what is it saying? First of all, create a container, and in this resource group, and the container name could be, you can just change the container name here, and then image. So you can see that it is Microsoft, and then it is Azure Container Image Hello World. So that's just one container image that is there, but it's Microsoft Windows only installation here, and ACI Hello World is an image in the Docker repository. It's in Azure repository right now, and DNS name. So you can see that it starts with minus minus here or hyphen hyphen here, right? So this is what you're defining here, hyphen 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 row. So image name is defined there, port is defined there. If I just go a little to the right side, so hyphen hyphen ports, right? And then DNS label. So hyphen hyphen DNS dash name dash label, and then it starts from here, whatever name you want to give now, and then the location, right? So I'm just gonna change that resource group name here, so you should not get an error, but fingers crossed it could be giving errors for any other thing. So I'll just
Okay, sir, one question. We need to create this container only using Bash or PowerShell, or is there any graphical user interface as well?
yeah, so graphical user interface is already there, yes. So you would have to define all that there. We can try that one as well later, but yes, you can create from GUI as well here. So I'm just gonna paste that after explanation. So there's that in WhatsApp and in WebEx as well. So you can just change it to put it in Notepad and then make changes if you want. You're gonna change RG at the top. RG at the top. So I have already changed that RG and given it to you, and that RG is already here as well. Yeah.
Can you go up? Can you go down actually?
Oh.
Scroll down. Yeah, so you see the AZ container create. So second line says the resource group. Is it gonna stay is the same, or is you're gonna change the name?
Yeah, actually,
On the-
I put it as this one. That's the same command here separately, which
Oh,
is this
okay,
one as well.
got it. Okay, that's just syntax. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna copy that, and you can just open that in Notepad first, and you can make some changes of your own. If you create the same resource group name, which is okay, but you should just change this name here, my container, and then your name there, and then also the machine name label instead of my name, your name there, right? And the rest is okay, right? So you can put it on Notepad and then first make those changes and then go ahead and create that machine. So I'm just gonna go there to Azure and right click here and paste. So it says running. So it's already copied to your side. You can just make those changes there. But this means that there is a Microsoft image there called ACI Hello World in Azure that it is just grabbing with the help of this command from Azure. So we're going to talk about Azure Registry. Then we're going to talk about Kubernetes as well. Oh, it's created for me. So it gives you in JSON format or in simple English a long list of what it did here. Created in East US, and then first of all, yeah, image name here, and start time is this, and it's actually running, and then it count one, and it just says pulling, then it says pulled already the image. It's just giving different stages there. The image name was this, and then again created container and created type normal, and then it goes down to started normal, and so it just shows you all the stages of what happened during the deployment, running, right, instance view. So what we can do is, so it just got deployed, right, and we can just check from our other commands. Okay, I just paste, actually I don't know why I paste here the whole JSON file format of the results. So what you can do is, there's another command here, and in that command it just asks that, or the command will just check that the container was deployed successfully and where was it deployed successfully, right? So out table, it's just going to give you better information. Otherwise it's going to be just like this JSON format, but I still have to change the resource group in every command that we're getting, because we just created that new resource group. So the next command just shows you that information. So it's supposed to give some information. Normally it's supposed to give IP address information and provisioning information, but did we actually ask for an IP address here, public IP? We should have given that command, but it was not mentioned here, and I'll show you in next command what I mean right now. So I'm just gonna paste that in your WebEx, and so just first open that command that I just pasted in WebEx and WhatsApp. Just paste it on Notepad, make your changes there, because you need to change this my container, your first name. Well, that's it. The third command is just checking if the container was created or not, right? Or is it running in a proper way? So I'll copy this whole command and I'll just go for so it shows me that this is the FQDN, right? So you can see that publicly if you want to access that. So this is the FQDN, your first name Azure Container .east US, whichever region you created that in, and the Azure Container.io is the actual path or actual domain where the containers can be accessed. So the FQDN is there. It is not showing the IP address here, and provisioning state, yes, it is succeeded. It has been provisioned or deployed, but IP address is not showing because we didn't give that command. Normally the command is hyphen IP dash address and space public. If you add that, then it just gives that as well. Power outage will be, oh, okay. So okay, so in WhatsApp, Vikas is saying power outage, will be right back. So okay, I'm just writing there. We will do the most critical lab now. Hurry. Just kidding. Okay. Okay. So guys, it is deployed. It's pretty straightforward, right? And we can just see that how you can deploy that as well. But if I just copy that, that DNS here, although we did not give a public IP, so if I copy that name here and put it in this tab here, so does it do anything? Well, I don't think so, but I'll just try to still. So guys, you can see that welcome to Azure Container Instances. So this instance has some web page that got loaded, and so it's actually loading with that DNS name, right? So it's loading with that DNS name. So welcome to Azure Container Instances. If you go for that Cloud Shell, just copy this whole FQDN and paste it inside your tab, and you should be able to see that welcome to Azure instances. So this is what you created here, and there's a web page inside right now. So if you're able to see that, this means that this container is working fine. But that's just one container. We can just go ahead with some others as well, other examples.
Amir sir, one question regarding that container we are seeing. So is that container running IX server as well, so that we are able to browse the website hosted in the container, or?
So that's the thing, that this is a Node.js based application that is offering. So if you have Node.js related commands, then you can remotely connect to that. Otherwise, no, it's not with GUI we can connect to this. So suppose you have SQL Server inside, so you would need then SSMS, right? SQL Server Management Studio, to connect with SQL Server if SQL Server is deployed here. So so that's why. But let's just also try to. Oh, you're welcome. Oh, you're back. Hey. So yeah, that's the main thing here, that how do you connect to that and go inside, right? Containers are very small, and they are not really like a virtual machine that you can just remotely connect inside. But you can just so from PowerShell, from Bash, if you know those scripts there, you can just try to remotely go inside. But let's just create one more, actually two more instances there, in fact three, to get some more type of images deployed, and then we can try. Actually, we're gonna now install the Nano server with IIS and Nginx. If you know Linux, then you can try to connect from public IP there as well, because we're gonna try to give public IP there. So you should know that if it's Linux inside, then you can go with Linux commands there and try to connect to inside. It's all CLI from there to go inside and explore anything and make changes on anything.
So what are in the inside of this container right now we just created? Is it
This is
any web server?
Yeah, so this is Node.js.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's a full article on how to connect to Node.js. So how to connect to Node.js container. So if they have that Dockerizing a Node.js web app, so a container consists of an application running a script to basics. So what can you do? So if you have the command line details of Node.js, how to connect your Node, there you go. So Node.js app in Docker to your Oracle, how to connect Node.js in Docker to your, how to set up your development. So how to build an application with Docker.
In the image value you put Microsoft/ACI-hello world.
Yes.
I mean, is it the Node.js container image?
Yeah,
Or?
normally in the background, this is from the documentation where I got that. It was saying that it is Node.js, but the image name could be anything. Whoever uploaded the image named it like this way, right? This this question, specific question, will be better answered with next containers that we will create now. Hopefully better answered, because right now we deployed Node.js with Linux, but we will be deploying something with Windows as well. Then you can try to connect from there if we can. So please copy and paste chat in WhatsApp.
I mean, we are creating the container within Azure, right?
Yes.
So if images is somewhere saved in Azure, I mean, we are just calling those images and creating a container from Azure?
So it is in your resource group as well. So in fact, that's a good question as well. So we can go down here, and you can see that. Oh, where's my resource group? So I'm gonna refresh that. Oh, if I refresh that, will it go away? So I'll just go back here and go to resource groups. This one, and you can see up here our resource group is here, right? So once you go inside the resource group, you can see this my container, your first name. if you click that, my container, your first name. So now this is the inside of our container. This is, yeah, operating system is Linux. It says Windows. So whoever named it, that's misleading, obviously. And then there is identity properties. So if you go to container itself, first of all, overview. What does it offer? Does it offer a connect button there? Nope. So this means that, and there's a public IP actually with the application that we connected. But we have the FQDN as well, the DNS for that. So that also shows. Now if then you can, then yeah, this one, the article, there are many articles there, how to connect, and then you just have to have some scripts there to make that connection with the public IP in hand, right? So just connect from PowerShell. So this is one page. There are many such pages there that are talking about how to set up your local Node.js, if it's Node.js. If you want to go for, let's just create another Windows nano server with IIS, right? Internet Information Services, and then we can try to check if we can connect from PowerShell with that. So, but connecting inside, yes, that's where the developers come in, and you have the proper scripts to connect to a container and just do some work inside. Then but normally you create a container image, or you use a container image to make some modifications, or you attach it to applications, or you connect yourself. So lots of possibilities for developers. For us, we're deploying for now. So here, guys, one more script here that we can deploy with some more options here. When you use more options, obviously, then you should know that how to secure them as well. So we're going to talk about that as well. So here, AZ container show minus resource group, how to get public IP, how to create Linux container. So guys, this now I'm going to give you a very simple one with the public IP mentioned as a separate syntax there. So I'll just keep putting, first of all, there's another command that I want to show you, and then we will go for some more containers there. Let me just change that. So that is supposed to just show the public IP of your container. This commandlet here, AZ container show resource group this, and container name this, and query IP address only. So if you just want to know IP address, I'm just changing the resource group for the next commands as well, because it's gonna be easy. We can deploy some different Linux images as well, just to get some more familiarity. I'm just changing the resource group for all of these with some longer commands, and then we can list those resource group or containers once we create them. And once we are going and playing with those commands, then we can understand what we're talking about when it comes to security of that. So this is what we're supposed to see, an IIS, Internet Information Services server. So I'm just going to first copy this command here. That just shows, suppose you want to just know the IP address of public IP of this. Although you can go to the overview in GUI and you can just know it now, but if you want to know the IP of a container, and then I'm just typing that. So I just put it in WhatsApp, and I'm putting it in WebEx chat as well. So we'll just execute this command just to know further that, okay, this is how we can know the public IP. If you just want to know the public IP, suppose you did not give the DNS name of that, right? So I'll just, so it just gives easily a public IP of the machine, which machine that you wanted to know, which container you wanted to know. But let's quickly create a Nginx or Linux machine with a web app inside. So I'm just gonna put that quick command. Now you can just see that here it is asking for IP address, public IP here, right? But it's just deploying a different image now. Nginx is ever heard of Nginx before or used it before? Oh, sorry, I was just gonna execute that. Let's deploy another Linux container. So it's in WhatsApp as well. Go ahead and execute that. So it's in WebEx as well. While it is executing, oh, I put the let's deploy as well. While it is executing, then we will deploy the Windows one as well. Once we have multiple containers, then we'll check out some more commands. So it's deploying now that Linux machine, Nginx. Nginx style is stylized as Nginx, or is a web server that can also be used as a reverse proxy. It can be used as a load balancer. It can be used as mail proxy and HTTP cache. The software was created by blah 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 publicly. Nginx is free and open source software released under terms. So this is Nginx that we are just deploying. So it will be, it is a load balancer as well as reverse proxy. It does a lot of stuff, and you know, normally it gets deployed real fast. Oh, it is deployed already. Seriously, wow. It gets deployed real fast. So the thing is that what is the IP of that? You can just check. But I'm gonna give you one more. Let's deploy the Windows one as well. Then there are some interesting commands that we can check. Suppose you want to give a CPU and RAM to the container. Oh, I want that specific CPU and RAM given, so we can do that too. So I'm just putting that other Windows machine now, and you can just change the name to yeah.
Amir sir, I have one question regarding the earlier commands. So we did not specify the location when we are creating the last instance, I mean the container. So is it by default getting our location, which is the East US, or how actually it is getting the location?
Yeah, so resource group was created inside East US. So when we attached the resource group and did not actually specify the location, so it got it from the resource group that it was supposed to connect to or attach to.
Okay.
Okay, so there's the other one, guys, and that is let's deploy Windows Nano Server with IIS installed, right? So that is the next one here, and it is in WebEx as well. So I'll just put that, was it only, yeah, OS type Windows. Guys, if you do not define OS type, then it defaults to Linux OS, right? So you have to define that it is Windows, otherwise it can actually grab during the deployment the other image, the Linux operating system. Okay, so I'm just going to copy that here, and it might take a little more time. It's Windows, although it's Nano Server, but it should. So, oh, okay. Command not found. Oh, seriously? I put the let's deploy as well. Okay. I'll just copy from.
So if we don't say at the end of the command like OS type is Windows, it's gonna build like Linux machine, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
I'll just go for this. Okay, so these commands were not like right away running. I had to remove some errors there and then test them. But like it's.
But sir,
Yep.
which nano server version it is going to install? Is it 2016 or
Well,
2019?
yeah, so that detail is with the image itself. Suppose you want to check that, so we can just either when it is installed, then we can run commands against that to know that which version is it, and then what kind of patching we need. Otherwise, the image source, if I just put that name here on, there's a hub.docker.com. Normally they have that image, and the full path is there. Now, if it was deployed recently from that there, so it would have the latest patches, it would be latest image. Otherwise, this is the hub.docker page here, where yeah, it is 2019 as per that name placed here, but we cannot say for sure what we installed was 2019 or 2016. But this is the page where we could have downloaded it from easy. Docker pull. Normally we need to know then Docker commands there. First you pull or download this image to your laptop or desktop, then you upload it to Azure. Then it will be the latest one from here. But otherwise, when it is installed, then we can just check. 50 million people have downloaded. Wow, amazing, seriously.
I mean, when we are typing that name, image name, what Azure do? Azure just search in internet and for that name, image name, and capture that image for us, or how actually?
Normally it grabs it from Docker, which is the main hub over the planet Earth. But there is another thing called, maybe you've heard about it, GitHub, right? Ever heard of that, GitHub, before? So
Yeah.
okay. So there are many scripts there that Microsoft places. Everyone can place scripts, and then you can all collaborate. All programmers, developers can connect to that script, and oh, okay, this is a script. Thank you. And some other developer made some changes and represented the new version of the script. So you can collaborate on a project here, some scripting code there, and you can go for GitHub. So yes, it's open source, owned by Microsoft. Exactly. As Nazmul said. So Microsoft normally has every repository here in GitHub. So Microsoft has many sources. You just name it, and whatever is the nearest, easiest resource, if it's working, then Azure is using its own resource. Most probably it's GitHub. I have to just make sure, because this should not be going to Docker Hub. It should be hub.docker. It should be GitHub, their own repository. So they have many repositories there where they can grab that image from. So it has to be internally inside Microsoft if they want it to be secure, and obviously they want it to be secure. Oh, they are expiring their best repository soon. So on TechNet. Oh, okay. Okay, so here on TechNet, yeah, all right. So, but the GitHub is the one that really you can freely create your account there and share any code. Everyone's sharing their code on GitHub just to have collaboration, right? So that's good. They can get it from hub.docker.com, but that's outside of Microsoft, so they will use their own repository. Alright guys, so here we have created the Windows machine as well, and if you want to know that the details of the two containers that we created, in fact we created 3 containers, right? So there is another command how to create list all containers, right? So this is an interesting command that you can list whatever containers in a table, how many containers you have right now. So I'm just going to copy this here as well. List all containers, and then there it is. So it's in WhatsApp now, list all containers, and also in WebEx. So I'll just grab this command that starts with AZ containers. So guys, remember that we're doing that in Bash, right? So PowerShell commandlets for the same thing would be definitely PowerShell commandlets. So Microsoft, you will see, is also also pushing us toward, hey, you can use Bash, but no, you can use PowerShell as well, definitely. So PowerShell version of that you can just check from. Once we know what we're doing, we understand what's going on, you can just then search for PowerShell version of that too. How to change to PowerShell? See this? You can just change from Bash to PowerShell anytime and then start running PowerShell, right? Okay, I'll just put that command that I put there in WhatsApp, and it should just list all the containers. Yes, we have 3 containers, and you can see all have port 80 allowed, and all are actually web apps or web servers. So you can see that the Windows one is deployed as well, right? So how about that you can copy the Windows one and go ahead and copy this public IP of the nano server with IAS installed inside. Just go ahead and copy that and paste it inside the browser. And well, there you go. So it's a working web server with this public IP that was just assigned to you, and you just deployed that. It's just web server is opening fine, right? So that's very good. That with this public IP, you can hopefully your container is also deployed, and you are able to see your web server as well. And how to connect to nano server container with IAS installed. Normally there are commands there. So yeah, install on Azure. Okay, yeah, on Azure. Deploy nano server. They have lots of articles there. How to use PowerShell with Windows nano servers, step by step. Then how to connect to that, creating a Docker container host on. So nano server Docker. How to set up an IS website. Okay, I'll just go up there. Install nano server, but that's just not install. Then how do you work on it? If they have the documentation, just clean installation. Okay, that's just documentation. So deploy manage nano server. Okay, there you go. Manage, and just some commands. Set item ws man. Well, that's I think in local. I don't think it's in Azure. No, it's not in Azure. It is applying to Windows 2016 only. But that's just giving you what to do with this. So if I go up there, deploy nano server and Microsoft Docs. So yeah, it's again, and what I'm saying is, oh, they have given documentation for 2016. That's not fair. Then you have to check the documentation of other people, how to connect to Azure container, right? You know, this is not good. How to connect to Azure Windows container. They should have it in the documentation. I had that documentation. I'll just quickly go for one command here. If they have easily put it, but we need to go for actually Azure Kubernetes as well as container registry. We need to just know these as well. Free ebook, yeah, that's just nothing. What's new Kubernetes? No, nothing. So if it was AWS, the
Sir, all those containers are creating on top of Docker image. I mean, where is the Docker configuration in Azure?
Yeah, so that's the good part about creating containers in Azure. You don't have to deploy Docker. It's provided as is. Like Microsoft says, just you worry about the container and do not worry about the underlying software. So obviously, they would have a virtual machine in the background and a Docker already installed on top of that, or thousands of virtual machines there just ready to grab your container and host it, right? So we don't have to do it ourselves. But if you want to do that, then yes, I would again and again recommend that go for my lab where we had to install Docker separately. We had to configure the whole thing and then install the container in Windows Server 2016. But yes, here that's the benefit. You get to just work on container. Okay, so there's another one that you want to go to Docker and just grab that. You want to work from scratch here. Then they give you a really detailed that you grab an image from Docker itself and then add it here and then try to work on it. So this is another good documentation. But yes, how to connect and work. That's developer stuff kind of thing. I had that and I have to dig it out again where it is. So I'm just gonna put that here about lab for container deployment and configuration from hub.docker.com, and there's the link, and I'll just copy that here as well, just for knowledge and information, right? So okay guys, so let's keep going ahead. So you got the successful deployment of a container. We get the idea that okay, we have to give certain commands there and then container gets deployed. So one more is that AZ container create name nginx. We're going to deploy Linux nginx, which is web server plus load balancer plus reverse proxy as well. But now we're going to give CPU and RAM as well, and you can just see how simple it is that you can just provide first of all, IP address should be public, and then hyphen CPU, and whatever CPU you want to give, hyphen memory, whatever memory you want to give. So it comes down to deploying a container straightforward. It's that easy to do that. So I'm just gonna copy this deploy Linux container with CPU and RAM defined. So I'll just put that there. It's now there in WhatsApp, and go ahead and deploy that, and it would be faster now. Otherwise the basic hardware is given. If you want to give even more, you can just write it there, but at your own risk. You can do that. So but you just have to add in a container that CPU and memory there, or whatever else. Then the command can get much more complicated if you need more and more features and services, right? So then you have to dig down where is it provided. GitHub is full of millions of such scenarios there, but once we know the basics of deployment and everything, then we can just go ahead and explore more of these options. So if I go for disconnect from internet, oops, okay. So okay, sure. And so guys, here what we can do is I'm just going to deploy that another container that has actual CPU and memory defined, right? The main thing is, first of all, does it work or not, right? And you should make a repository of your own and collect those commands there that work. Okay, it is also deployed, and so this is how containers are deployed, and I can just run the second last command, which was actually asking, this one, list the containers. How many containers do we have? And we have just 4 containers, right? So, and all the public IPs are showing there. Just make sure that they were deployed to the same resource group, so you can delete them all at the end. That's nice. So we can just go back to some of the security that should be then implemented as well. Hopefully the containers were deployed by everyone, right? Okay. So when we go ahead then, so these are all the commands, the rest of the commands that I was talking about. It's really small, but AZ container create, AZ container delete. So list, start, stop. You can stop them. Right now they are started. And show returns the container properties in JSON format. and then logs. So list the complete log of a specific container in the resource group. So these are some of the commands that I'll just put that slide there, so you can upload it. You can check that out. So other than that, if we go ahead, we have created a lot of containers here, right? And now we get to know that okay, they get the public IP. You can put the public IP in web browser, and then you can connect to it. So then there is security best practice for the container is that vulnerable container images. So vulnerability scan container registry. So the main thing is that container images could be vulnerable as well. So that's a risk as well, right? You're deploying from, so some community member actually uploaded the image. Maybe hub.docker.com is not, or it's running its basic security software, but it's not like going in depth with security. And some images that you're downloading uh, may actually have some kind of hacker tools as well. So that's one of the scenarios. You can't just blindly download the image and think it's very, very secure, right? So uh, so that's one thing. uh, Sorry guys. Okay, so here let's try to yeah, so malicious containers, and then there's use private and or trusted registries, Docker content trust image signing. So the thing is that those images which are signed, so what is the meaning of signed images? Like so the main thing is whichever vendor has released that image, suppose it's a Ubuntu image with MySQL server, or CentOS image with some load balancer. So whoever released it, is it a well-known vendor, or is it a community image? Somebody in the community, some programmer developer uploaded that. So you have to just make sure that what is the source of the container image that you're downloading, and then you can just download. If it is signed by the vendor, so there will be that available signing will be so there will be that encrypted signature available attached to the image, and you can trace that back to the vendor. You can just confirm that, hey, is that your image Microsoft? Is that image your image Google Cloud or Oracle? So one app can affect or access another app namespaces and RBAC. So this is that if you have a namespace there and it's kind of a similar namespace, or RBAC is just role-based access control, which is that which user has what access to the container, and this we can see even in our the container. So if we go back to this, how many containers that we created? Already we created 4 containers here. Down there I can see 4 containers, right? One Windows container, three Linux containers. So if I go to resource groups here, so if you go to the Azure like this and go to the resource groups right now, right? So I'll just make it a little down here. So this is RG 11 August today's resource group, but you can also see that there's a Cloud Shell storage East US that got created because you're working inside that Cloud Shell storage or storage account where the shell is configured. Now if you sign out and sign in, this storage will still be there unless you delete it specifically, right? So this means that whenever you want to connect to Bash right after signing into Azure in the browser, so shell will be ready for you right away, or you can delete and deploy it again. That also takes a few minutes only, or 1 minute even. So I'm just going to go to the resource group here, and you should be able to see here with that resource group. Okay, so I'll just put it even further down. Yeah, now you can see all the containers are there. If I go to excuse me, the Windows container, right? This is the Windows container. So in Windows container now and it is giving me the public IP here, and it is also showing first of all, the security for that would be locked, that you want it to be immutable, like you cannot make changes here. And second thing is IAM here, which is RBAC or role-based access control. So you can go to IAM and then you can define who can access, what kind of access will be given to that. Classic administrators, if we go for, so it is obviously your account here, which is a classic administrator. And then roles, well, that's pretty much all the roles in Azure. In fact, this is monitoring role here only, and reader role, and administrator and contributor role, right? So role assignments, who did the role was assigned, or which app has access to this. So this is just contributor, and then there is that I think local account that is there, and then one account is our account. So yes, container is supposed to have its role there, whatever IAM has done, and especially monitoring. You know, you have to monitor the that container. So it specifically has the monitoring role. Other roles, if you go for the role repository, add a role assignment here and click add, then there's normally a long list of roles here. Actually, that's not very long here. It's not showing, it's just showing for the container related only. So and this especially for monitoring only. So yeah, it's supposed to have its own roles. So guys, what it's talking about is IAM or RBAC, and then if we go down to containers here, that is events, properties, logs, and there's a connect, right? So if you click the connect here, so choose startup command here. So what is it? It's Windows, right? But it's a nano server. And choose startup command, then there's /bin/bash, or you want to go for shell here. Suppose you want to go for, actually if I just select that, this is sh or PowerShell, right? So if you click connect here, press enter to reconnect. Seriously, okay, I wanted it running. So then you have to just check the error that why did it not connect. An error during create process, failure in a Windows system call, the system cannot find the file specified. Oh, okay, so whatever is stopping it, you could just check the error. But if we can connect from bash, because we created it from bash, actually we can go to this, and nope. So we have to disconnect and then connect it, right? But anyway, I'm just gonna close that, and then go to Windows, and then go to containers, and then go to connect. So normally it is from command that you can connect, but here they have, so I just keep it bash now and try to connect inside. So again, yeah, there must be maybe a problem with the image, or you can just try to check that it says here command line bin bash. So you have to check that if that image is even working or not, and what are the ways to troubleshoot that. And it talks about Kubernetes as well here, Kubernetes port 443. So what is Kubernetes? We need to check that out as well, right? But anyway, logs is one area of feature. Then metrics and monitoring, alerts you have to create if it's a critical application, and the RBAC that we're talking about. These are some of the security measures that you can go for. If I click the log, it should be the same exact thing that we always see in other areas. Yes, it is the same. So if you click the add here, there are just two log types here, read only and delete, right? Okay, so here let's just try to go ahead with the slide next points there. So if I just go ahead with this, one app can affect well, yeah, loss of confidential data, then that can be it as well. Encrypt all inter-container traffic effective secrets management. So secrets is just the password is stored in secrets app here, application here, or web app. But normally you must have, if the containers are talking to each other, obviously you would connect to that container with some commands and then try to even move some data from here to there. So in that case, you have to make sure that it is encrypted communication between the containers. Loss of availability due to host failure, so container orchestration. So container orchestration is that it is Kubernetes. So that's another weird name that I'm taking here right now. And we need to check what is Kubernetes. And when it comes to orchestration, it means only you want to deploy hundreds of containers, right? Oh, okay. So Nazmul says Nginx 3 is connected. Thank you for checking that out. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's check it. Resource group and Nginx 3 that has some RAM and some proper. So if we go to containers, we go to connect and we choose bash connect. Yay, it's connected. So ls, right? So you can just check any of how does it go here, cd bin and then ls. So you can just check, this is all Linux then obviously, and you can go ahead. So well, yeah, so this means that image is not reliable, or the Microsoft, right? Otherwise other Linux should be so other Linux are also not working. This means if I close that and go for Nginx 2, so there could be the way we deploy it, maybe that would be the reason that we did not give full commands there. Well, let's see, connect and oh, 2 is also working. Okay, ls is just dir, like dir, right? Okay, so yeah, they work. So in container, it's a very you know lightweight machine that will not charge you like virtual machine would do, and you can just practice Linux here within a container as well. So my suggestion is, guys, try to play more with the containers and try to understand more container registry. And maybe in web server, if you deploy a web server, just try to make sure that how do you set up a web page within Nginx web server or MySQL or any other Linux based server, and try to set up one web page there, welcome to, and your name there. So try to change a main web server file there. So you should have that kind of, at least that much familiarity with Linux folder structure and how to put some files, and also try to know that how to patch that Linux server. So some of these things we should be good in if we want to have better opportunities in cloud. Okay, so all Windows containers are not connecting, but Linux containers are fine. Oh, okay. All, hey, okay. In fact, the first one that we deployed, that was also Linux, but yeah, the name was wrong. So we can see that it could be, even wrong images that we could be deploying in Azure, and it would be our fault then that if the wrong image is deployed there, or the image with a virus inside is deployed, or image with a malware inside is deployed. So you have to be careful whose image, what is the source of that image that you're downloading. Is it from Microsoft, but is it from Microsoft but then downloaded by somebody else and then changes made and then uploaded again? So the source will be whoever uploaded again, right? So so we have to be careful about all that. And if we just check out loss of availability due to host failure, so container orchestration just means that you want to deploy on large scale, you want to make it highly available, highly scalable, then in that case you can just check out the container. We're going to talk about our Kubernetes now that can deploy the container in large scale on. So we're going to try to check and some commands that are there, we can at least see them, we can try them as well, if we want. So, right, guys, there's that security best practice for containers, but we deployed containers. Now we can understand. If I was just saying, reading these slides without actually going through some of the procedure of deployment of container, then we would not have understood that much that we are doing now. Well, hopefully now we're still understanding, because it's not that easy. If you just started to deploy that, then I would recommend that do play a lot with that, and try to go with some more scenarios, like 5 or 6 containers. You connect, transfer, copy file from one container to another. Just do that simple thing, right? So can you do that, right? So can you copy, can you patch a container, right? And also, if you can change the first page, web page. If anyone puts a public IP of a container, your web page should run in the container, right? Welcome to and your name. So if you can do all that, then it's kind of, you will be a bit more comfortable with handling containers. So developed, then there is that, how does it really, they deploy that base images there, then file system, then the app libraries in a container, and then developed code, whatever customized developed code was there, that is in a container. And so what happens is that you have deployed one container to second container, third container, from where? From Docker Hub. Now this whale and the container, you know that sign. This is from hub.docker.com, or this is what we have just opened here. You can see that, yeah. So this means that it's a Docker blog, or this is a docker.com site. This is non-Microsoft site, right? From where, and normally developers across the planet will, that is their first source of any containerized image or updated containerized image. This would be the first source here. So they would not even go first to Microsoft. Obviously they would go for docker.com, where all the latest images are uploaded. So you just have to make sure that you know what is the source. That's one thing, right? And then secure it after deploying it. So it's coming from hub.docker.com, and then from there you can, it's container runtime environment, then there is host operating system, then there is container user access, user can access, and then container network segmentation. So obviously the containers have to be inside a network, and then orchestration comes the last, which is you use a platform where 1, 2, 3, 4, 20, 30, 100, 2,000 containers, 3,000 containers are being handled at the same time on a large scale. Then it comes to orchestration. Otherwise, obviously a container will have a network, container should have a user access, container will have underlying small image of an operating system, and the runtime environment on which container is actually running. So just saying that these are the levels here, and you should know that can you provide security on every level here, right? So that's what main idea behind that is. So if you know what levels are there, you can think of security as well. Just like you know that container network segmentation. So when you create a VNet, you have to have a security group, network security group there. Remember that we did that exercise as well. ACLs, access control list, you can create on network level, right? And user access, we just talked about RBAC, role-based access control. Operating system level, there is firewall. Maybe it is in that stripped down, very light version of operating system. Hopefully it has a firewall that is, worth calling a firewall. It has that kind of security offering, but no firewall, some firewall is better than no firewall, right? So you just have to know the stages to offer security on those stages, right? And so that's the way they are built, develop and build, then test and modify. That's the second level. First they develop the containers, then they test and modify it, then they release the container. So on those levels, how do you really make sure that it's the whole procedure is secure, right? Use trusted images, reduce clutter, sign images and verify signatures, enforce secrets management, which is just credentials. So trusted images, again and again it's saying, and reduce clutter, or all the hassle in trying to create extra code that is there, that you can remove actually extra unnecessary features. So you can just remove all that unnecessary code and features. Also, sign images and verify signatures. So hey, Microsoft, did you release that container? And then secrets management, are the passwords and security keys and encryption and decryption keys really secure when the container image was being developed? Then there is that test modify and network segmentation. So when you're deploying containers, you can create two subnets, three subnets in a VNet. Remember that we create two subnets there, right? So, and user authentication, obviously that's RBAC again. Scan for vulnerabilities. So you need to scan the containers as well. So for all this, you need to know some commands there. Just like we just went inside Nginx Linux machine. Now, do you know that how to scan vulnerabilities? Uh, do you know the Linux folder structure? Which folder has what kind of files? Do you know how to deploy packages inside that container? So you should be able to do all that, because you will be asked for containerization in any next project or any next job you're trying. So harden operating system, obviously reduce or just remove all the loopholes, vulnerabilities on an operating system. So since you have an operating system, very light version of that, you have to harden it. Make sure that any kind of vulnerabilities are covered and all latest patches are installed, right? Some companies have come up with scripts that close some of the services in the background that are just running, and if they're closed, it doesn't really matter. But because of their running, some hackers are actually able to access them and use them as a attack surface. That's why you have to harden your operating system. Any operating system is not released as a very secure operating system. You have to secure it yourself. So, and then that is test modify. These are the security stages there, and then release production when you are deploying it, govern operations and intrusion detection. So you should have some kind of IPS, intrusion prevention system, or IDS, intrusion detection systems there, and all the security software, anti-malware, anti-virus. So can you deploy that in a container? Again, try to play with one container in Linux and Windows, and try to do multiple tasks there as if you were doing in a virtual machine. So get yourself familiarized with containers as much as you can, right? And share those labs with others as well. Suppose you found a very wonderful lab where you can do a lot of things in containers. So, but you have the commands in that labs and you tested those. You can share it with others as well, so others could also play with the containers, right? Okay, guys. So this is. Then there's a Microsoft white paper about securing container, introduction to containers, container security, Azure Kubernetes, service security. So we need to now understand Kubernetes as well. What is that? Before that, there's Azure Container Registry as well. So what is that registry? And then what is that Kubernetes here, right? So we need to understand both of these. And so let us go ahead, or yeah, I was just looking for that chat. Somebody would say, "Hey, teach break," but I think nobody's interested in break. So let's go ahead. Oh, Waqas is interested. So I actually, initiated that demand. Oh yeah, that would be good. 8:30 we can have a break, or if you needed that 5-minute break now, because for the other pair, sorry. So then you can have that too. Okay, so Sam says 5-minute break. Okay. So yeah, maybe we have to go. So yeah, guys, take a 5 to 8 minute break, and then we'll have a big one at 8:30. Right now, if you have to, quote unquote, go, so go now. Okay. Break. hopefully we're back. Okay, guys, so let us go ahead. We talked about, first we understood what is Docker, what is container, and then we created some, tried to connect to them, saw where they are in Azure, and then we talked about then the security of those. There are some vulnerability checks as well. Now this word here, vulnerability, right? So I think we should try to say it fast 5 times. Vulnerability. No, you can't say it fast 5 times, right? Vulnerability. No. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, let's go ahead and so there's no servers to manage internet facing. So first of all, this was our first machine, right? So you put that demo there, demo. So that's a demo. DNS name of the container there, and it showed you the first page, right? But you can make that change by going inside the container and then change the first page to whatever you want. So you don't have to manage any servers. Obviously, it's just a container in front of you. Internet facing, yes, it is having a public IP. So did you secure it? Is there any firewall on? Is there? So which VNet did you attach it to? Now, if you have gone through those labs with me, we have done those labs, right? So if we go for containers here, so there's identity of the container, and that is a system assigned. So yes, this is going to give key to this, security key, and to this container, and so it could be authenticated with this security key. That's another security feature. But what I was trying to go for, that there is no networking option right now that is there. Like if you see in virtual machine, there's a network written there, right? And that you can just put NSG there, which is network security group, or network security group, or SG security group there. But you just are able to go for local features of this container here. So it is really light, application software where you don't have much of features or huge features like virtual machines have, right? So that's why you have to know it's working, and you have to be familiarized. You have to make yourself familiarized with this because pretty much every new job is having a mention of containers. Every new job or every second and third job is asking for containers knowledge, right? So they would not be actually then expecting that you should know just the basics, what we just covered. They would want you to go in depth with containers and how to deploy on large scale and then maintain and secure them as well, right? But the security side of it we're covering. What I'm stressing to you is go for other scenarios as well, how to regularly work with a container. So internet facing, they are internet facing. So how do you secure them? Not suitable for private apps. So if you have any of the apps that are supposed to be for security, that are so sensitive for your company that you would not want them to be exposed to any such platform that does not offer a huge amount of security there, right? So maybe containers are easy to deploy, fast to deploy. They can scale as well. You can have thousands of them in very less time. But when it comes to security, are they really, really very secure? So any kind of apps that the company would not want any kind of exposure, they're not insecure as well. Why would the companies even deploy if they're insecure, right? But what is the level of security you want, and what kind of apps you're not going to risk exposing over the internet, right? So if they're internet facing, you can just try to have those apps available in the containers that are actually not having a lot of your critical data there. Security considerations, vulnerability management, permit only approved registries. Okay, there's that registry here. Now this is not that registry which we think we have heard about. So what we know about registry, it's regedit, right? So regedit, if you type here regedit, so that's the registry of the machine where you have information about the hardware, software of this machine, especially security and well, all the information about this machine. So, and you can change them from user-friendly way of group policy in Windows. So that's the registry that I showed you. This one is not that, right? Approved registry is where you can save a lot of your all your images in Azure. So if you say that, hey, I have an Azure registry, so Azure Container Registry, sorry, ACR or Azure Container Registry, that means you have lots of container images, collected somewhere. So when you say or some boss says, hey, where are our container images there? So you will say it is in ACR, Azure Container Registry. Registry is just a collection of images that you have uploaded or downloaded, uploaded to Azure. So it's just a collection of your images. That is called registry in Azure. So ensure image integrity. Obviously, the image has not been messed up with. Nobody put a compromising file there or a malware there inside the image. How do you check that? You have to really do some vulnerability scanning there, some security software that scans, that are made to scan every code of an image, and in-depth scanning they can do. So you can go for those software and then scan the images before you deploy it in your production environment. Least privilege runtime. So obviously you can give access to whoever needs it, but don't go for more access than required. And use Azure Container Monitoring. So definitely monitoring is one of the most important part of security, that you are able to monitor and audit what's going on with your resources. So container monitoring is specifically there available. Then guys, there is these are the two third-party applications that can give you a very good insight into the security of the software. So container registry, vulnerability scanning, network discovery, segmentation and controls, intrusion detection and prevention, container security configuration assessment. So if the configuration is actually good. So what tools, we were wondering in the previous slide that what kind of scanning tools we should have. Well, these are the ones. Two of them are showing here. There could be others as well. Compliance reporting. So these can really check that your containers security and vulnerability. So these two are there. So TwistLock and Aqua. If I just go for TwistLock, so maybe if I just search in Azure, it's not a service, I know that. Aqua, okay, Azure Quantum. So yeah, I would just go for marketplace and then check for that. This is not the place to go for. If I go for marketplace, was here somewhere. Class management. Okay, Azure Container and then Aqua. So full lifecycle security for Azure container workloads. So it's Aqua Sec or Aqua Security. So you just need to know that, okay, there's that software here, and this is the website for that software. That I'll just put it here as well. Azure Container Security, right? So I'll just put it here in WhatsApp. So yeah, it's you can just download the free trial and then you can check that how it secures. The Aqua platform works seamlessly on Azure Container Service, integrating with Azure Container Registry, ACR, Azure Container Instances. The ACI is what we have explored till now, and on both Docker and Windows container formats. In addition, Aqua provides a native plugin for Azure DevOps, formerly VSTS, enabling developers to automate security testing into their CI/CD pipeline. So, yep, and it's Microsoft Azure certified. So this means that it's a certified partner for security. You can just try Aqua. That would be good. Then you can just put in your resume even that, hey, I know a third-party tool that I've run against containers, and it is Aqua, or the other one, TwistLock, whichever it is, right? So
I mean, sir, what Aqua actually do? I mean, is provide the security to the Azure container.
normally it's seamlessly on Azure. So integrating with Azure Container Registry. So registry would be all your images, whatever you uploaded for your company, container images. So it will integrate with that. So this means that it's going to scan those images for any kind of the wrong code that is going to be for hacker code or something else. So, but it's going to check the integrity of the images, and then containers, whatever security is required. So normally it just shows here protect Azure functions, protect containers running on Azure. So how does it protect? Aqua Micro Enforcer injects security controls into containers, making it possible to monitor and enforce policy in this serverless environments. So that's what it's exactly going to do: monitor and enforce policy. So this means that you can deploy Aqua and then create some security policies as well, that how containers are sharing files with each other, how containers are letting anyone modify some critical data there. So is there a policy for that? You can create some security policies for all those occasions. We're normally concerned when there's a modification going on and when there is access going on, right? So these are two concerning areas always. And then
But can we do all those monitoring and security thing from Azure itself,
yes,
or Azure need third-party apps like Aqua?
like suppose you have Exchange server here, right? So Exchange server has its built-in security, and then there are third party that offer much more that what Exchange server is not providing. So normally Microsoft is offering all the security tools there, but third party normally are always offering much more, and whatever we can do in 20 steps, third party offers it in one step, or one click only, or 2 clicks only, and it's done. So it's the ease of implementing security, plus what other extra options are there that Azure may not have. But Azure does not require us to go there to Aqua. But if you want much more security in their style, whatever their style is, so we have to explore that and then check it out. Just like any other application has a lot of security third-party tools, this is just another third-party software. But yes, that doesn't mean that we have to purchase Aqua to secure a container. Containers have their own security as well. You just want to stick to that. That also is good enough. But people do go for higher security always, so they explore. Okay, guys. So this all we can do manually, which within one software they are providing. Suppose you need to download another tool there for security vulnerability, network discovery. You need to purchase or download another utility. Maybe a free utility from Microsoft is there, but that's a lot of manual work. If that is all found within one software with one click, that's what we pay for. Otherwise, separately, those tools are available always. Okay, so here, actually, that is it for. So now, then, what is Azure Container Registry? Private repository of your container images in Azure. That's what Azure Container Registry is all about. So, not a big deal here. This is not very technical. Where do you store your images in Azure? In Azure Container Registry. That's where we store it, right? So if we go further ahead a little, so private registry for Docker images. Why does it say that it is Docker images? Because main repository across the planet Earth for containerized images is docker.com, right? So we know that. So this is just a private registry for whatever images are available in Docker. You can just have your own registry, or storage of containerized images. That is just what registry is. You're just storing some images. Accessible via public internet, and example would be myregistry.azure.cr.io. So it would then look like this. Suppose you want to give a path. You're creating a container, right? So create az container create. That's a command in bash, right? So after that, what image, wherever you put the image, now if you have your images here in Azure Container Registry, then you just give the path in the image area for that, right? So if we go for our any other file, so it was saying yes, this hyphen image. So after that, whatever you have uploaded in the Azure Container Registry, you can just put that path here, right? So this /g is for just for resource group, so that's not related, but this is the path that you can give in Container Registry. So if we go ahead a little there, Azure Container Registry, so there is in Azure, so there's that ACR. Oh, Arc, no, not Arc, Azure Container Instances, and so we will just type containers, right? There you go. So containers, I was just typing. Yeah. So container registries. If you type in search container registries, so there's that container registries here written, and so that's container registries. So this is your own repository of containers. Obviously, there's nothing here because we did not upload anything. But if you click the add button here for container registry, so it's gonna just start that wizard. So the resource group, we can just I'm just giving my today's resource group RG11Aug2020, and then registry name. So where would you upload that? You have to give a name, some type of name there. So you can go for your first name dash, okay, small case, your first name, and then today's date 11Aug2020, right? And okay, just unique name samosa. So you put some registry name there. We understand that we can upload. So Azure Container Registry allows you to build, store, and manage container images. That's it. So it's just a repository of images, right? Images and artifacts in a private registry for all types of container deployments. Use Azure Container Registries with your existing container development and deployment pipelines. There goes, pipelines. Very, very important word nowadays, pipeline. So you're continuously CI/CD, right? CI/CD, continuous implementation, continuous deployment. So use Azure Container Registry tasks to build container images in Azure on demand, or automate builds triggered by source code updates to a container's base image. So not only that, it's just a registry, but you can also update images. Suppose you created an image last year, so that's an old image, and there are so many new patches there for that, suppose nano server image, right? So you want to update that, so you can do that too. So however you want to maintain the images, manage the images, and build and deploy. So East US location, SKU, or what type of product you need, premium, standard, basic. So we can go for, well, whatever is the default standard and networking. Then we go for networking, and you want private endpoint connection is only available for premium SKU. So this means that you want to connect it to some VNet. Then you need to have, if I go to previous one, so I'll just select premium. Okay, let's just select premium. And then we go networking. Then it allows you to connect to some private endpoint. Suppose you want to have it accessible from internet, or you want to connect it to some private VNet that you created yourself, right? So and then there is suppose we select public endpoint and encryption. So you want to encrypt your images, it's a good idea, but up to you. And then tags, and then there is a review plus create. So I'm gonna go ahead and create that now. Oh. Okay. Whoa, it's still creating, seriously. Yeah, big break time. So guys, let's connect at 8:45. Yay! So while it is creating and will be created. So we're going to connect at 8:45. Okay, break time. Resuming. So okay, so there's a link from Nazman as well, and that is nice. So that's what I was gonna share as well. So yeah, that's the official link from Microsoft for. So thank you for sharing that. I'll just put it here as well in WhatsApp. ACR tasks. Hey guys, so what we were doing was we were creating that Azure container registry, and while it would have been created, so we just needed to know what it is. And Azure Container Registry allows you to build, store, and manage images for all types. I think we talked about that already. And Azure Container Registry is a managed Docker registry service based on the open source Docker Registry 2.0. Create and maintain Azure Container Registries to store and manage your private Docker container images. So the thing is that it's compatible with the Docker, because Docker is the biggest repository of all the container images. But this is also registered Azure Container Registry, so you can just import images from Docker directly as well to your Azure registry for your Azure subscriptions. So that is then, Docker. What is Docker? That's just what we discussed already. Docker is a containerization platform that packages your application and all its dependencies together in the form of a Docker container to ensure that your application works seamlessly in any environment. That's the definition of that. And then, well, yeah, the container definition is also here, but we talked about enough on container. So that's just some of the slides for the security of Azure Container Registry. But let's just see what we were able to deploy there. So it says here your deployment is complete. I'll just click the go to resource. So there's that move, delete, and update the registry. So ACR tasks, build, run, push, and patch containers in Azure with ACR tasks. Task supports Windows, Linux, and ARM with QEMU actually. So guys, you can see that container security integrations. They have also given that link of Aqua Security and Twistlog that we were talking in the slide as well. So, but obviously you have to purchase the Aqua Security or Twistlog Security from Marketplace there. I was going for Marketplace to check those, but then I went directly for the site. But yes, they are partners, so you want more security, more options there. So normally in the market, any vendor is not allowed to just give every feature that is thinkable, that is available to their product. So then, well, there would other companies will sue them. Then okay, how do we sell our software if this vendor is offering everything? So that's why there are then more security options there with Aqua Security and Twistlog. So other than that, access keys, encryption, identity, networking, security, logs. So repositories, that's repositories here, and we don't see any repository because we didn't create one. Webhooks as well. So, and if I click the add button, so normally webhook would also be normally it works, connect any app and create new workflows to deliver superior business results. So webhook is in a web development is a method of augmenting or altering the behavior of a web page or web application with custom callbacks. So these callbacks may be maintained, modified, and managed by third-party users and developers who may not necessarily be affiliated with the originating website or application. So overall, if you want some collaboration going on between developers for any image, suppose you want the developers to actually work on that image of Windows Nano Server and that IAS installed with it, web server, right? So if you want certain developers to keep on updating that and improving its features, so you can just select that webhook concept there. So if I go for webhook Azure, overall this is the concept. So a webhook allows an external service to start a particular runbook in Azure automation through a single HTTP request. External services include Azure DevOps services, GitHub, Azure Monitor Logs, and custom applications. So anyone who wants to really start automation and update your image and work with that image, or try to just put some new stuff inside the image, make some modifications there, so you can have webhook available for that. So guys, that's a lot of terminology for the developers that would know it already, and replications is also there. You want that image to be on different regions there across, then you can have that too. It's a very content trust, metrics, tokens, scope maps, so all these are there, but the thing is that this is overall you can just have that ACR deployed and then upload your images, and then you have to really do this vulnerability scan for the images as well. With if you want some extra more security, definitely these would provide more. That's why they are referring to Aqua Security and Twistlock. Otherwise, you can just try to get manually those tools, security tools, scanner tools, and then run it yourself if you don't want to go with these, right? But Azure Microsoft Container Registry here, overall, we get that this is where you can upload the images actually, and if we try to learn more about the security of that, so okay, so this is your registry, and you may have a lot of images here, but what about its security? So how do you really secure? What do you secure actually? So it's the same thing. Access keys. Suppose you're providing an image and then you have access keys. So what is with the access keys here? I think we talked about access keys in storage already. So that's should be the same thing here as well. Exactly. So registry name is this, and login server. Suppose I click the access key and then enable. So it provides that key here, password or password 2. So anyone who wants to connect from within an application to grab this containerized image has to provide this access key to access your container registry to upload or download an image. So this would be the access key. I'm just going to disable that, but the access key has to be used for that, and that's one thing. Azure AD with RBAC, so that's again what we talked about already, that you can just go for role-based access control and check that classic administrators here. I think roles, if I go for roles, yeah, so this is ACR pull, ACR push. So these roles are coming, exactly what roles are required here are actually being listed here, and monitoring, and Azure container registry push, container registry pull, ACR image signer, ACR delete. You want to give somebody delete rights, or you just want to give reader or owner or contributor or whichever. So these are just the roles for the container registry. So RBAC and the access keys. So access keys from within a software, if you're pulling an image or uploading an image, then you can go for that. ACR tasks, build and update containers in ACR, so these are the tasks there, Windows and Linux support. So that's pretty much what you do. But authentication options, you should be careful who is getting authentication options from where. So if we enable access, there's a question Waqas says, if we enable access key, there are 2 password keys required in access key. Yes, this was the same scenario as we saw in storage as well. You had key 1 and key 2 there. So some software require that you put 2 keys there, and many software require that you put just 1 key. So you can use any one of the provided keys there. So here, if there are 2 passwords there, so depends on the application. If any application has more security there and it requires you to have 2 passwords, then you can grab 2, otherwise 1. But if you have given a password there and somebody refreshes after that, so the password changes and the access is gone for that guy, that person has to get the new password after a refresh. This was the same for the key that we talked about in storage. So that is access keys. That's one way to secure it. Encryption, obviously you can encrypt that and they can secure that. And then identity, this is again, if you want Azure to authenticate, it will just create a key, authentication key for this image, and then, or whatever images, number of images are there, and that key will be stored in Azure Key Vault. So, and then there is overall security here as well, other than the access keys, encryption, identity, networking is just networking, but security, and that is your security center pricing tier is free. So with security, so it just says that there are no recommendations for security, but Security Center scans your container registry for security vulnerabilities and exposes detailed findings per image. That's really cool. Per image it finds, so it secures or it scans all your images. Whatever image you upload, it's going to keep on scanning all those. To improve the security posture of your containerized environment and protect it from attacks, enable the optional container registries bundle and remediate the findings in your registry. So they're saying that, hey, you want to go for more security, pay a little more, and we're going to make sure that you get that security. So this is called Container Registries Bundle. Enable the optional Container Registries Bundle. So try it free for 30 days, it says here, for the security alerts, but that's just alerts. Where is the Container Registries Bundle? Container Security, that's learn more. Okay, we have to go to Security Center for that. I'm just going to click that Security Center now. So that's the Security Center, and Compute and Apps, although it should be here, but it could be separately. Okay, Compute and Apps. So this one shows containers. So in Security Center, if I go to Compute and Apps, so here it shows containers. Well, obviously we don't have any, well, actually it's not showing here any containers, but actually we have 4 containers there. So I'm going to click that Add Servers just to check that does it detect anything here. So onboard servers to Security Center. Create a new workspace in which to store the data or use one of the workspaces listed below. Create new workspace. You may see only workspaces in subscription. So this is just for security data that you want. After onboarding, you can monitor the machines under Compute and Apps. So Compute and Apps would detect those machines, and then it would show here. So this is not what it looks like, that it's going to add the security, but if I go back here, so Container Registries Bundle, so this is supposed to be here. I mean, they keep on changing to container registries. Obviously it might not appear there, Container Registries Bundle, so it should be inside the security, but they may have moved it to under some option here. Oh, I can search here as well. Container, anything container here. Nothing. No. Okay. Pricing, editing, workflow, coverage, secure score. No. Actually, secure score also gives you a score against what is secure and what is not secure. Security policy. No. Computer apps normally is supposed to have it. Otherwise, security solutions, non-Azure, CM. Resources may take up to 24 hours to appear. Exactly, you're right. That's why it's not showing. Otherwise, then we could enable the securities bundle for that. You're right. So, okay, guys, here within that, you should just check that. If you really want more security, you can just go for that container. So they do recommend that if you want more security, then what exact security has to be enabled. They should have given that option here. But it says here, upgrade your subscription to the standard tier for enhanced security with just-in-time access, adaptive application controls, and more. So yes, we also did not do an upgrade. If I click that upgrade here, why do I keep clicking? Seriously. Anyway, enable security center standard tier on your subscriptions. Get started with 30-day free trial. Well, it's not updated, so that's why. Oh, and it's giving you the price here as well. That's new for. It didn't used to show that here. Anyway, $15 per server per month. Wow. So people would be, trembling to come here when they come here. Okay, guys. If you go ahead and continue talking about that, so there's that task image. So -- image and sample this minus registry $registry minus file. And that's the file there. But they're just saying that you should be going for authentication options, access keys, and Azure AD with RBAC. And enable firewall. So container registry is 0.29 cents per image. Okay, there you go. So container registry. So you were able to see that. It's also showing exactly there where I was looking.
Yeah, it's pricing and settings. I think I think it's getting started. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So the main thing. Oh, there you go. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, there you go. Container registries. So 0.29 cent per image. Ouch. Okay, so you have 20, 30 images. For companies, it's still peanuts. It's nothing. And they would definitely want the image to be... So, they will be deploying that image. They will be using that maybe forever, right? So if the image already has some hackers tools inside, so definitely 0.29 cents would be nothing compared to what they can achieve, and that is a secure machine. And obviously, if any hacker software is there inside, so this means that this should be enabled ASAP. Okay, so if we go back here, so we see the recommendation, we see also how much is that, and we see where it is. It's just about 0.02 cents per 0.02 cents to 9 cents per image. So they will scan one image. Suppose it's Windows Nano Server plus IAS. So that's the image that we choose to deploy with containers, right? So that they will scan that image in 0.29 cents. Oh, it's for storage. One container registries per image. So that is container registries, right? So what they were saying about container registries here, security center scans. So to improve the security posture of your containerized environment and protect it from attacks, enable the optional container registries bundle and remediate the findings in your registry. So it's gonna scan the container registry, and whatever findings are there, it will remediate that, or whatever loopholes are there, it's gonna fill them up. So yes, it's a scan per image, 0.29 cents scan per image. Oh, storage is supposed to be separate. So I'm just reading this line, right? So storage accounts is this is a separate. I mean, this is the pricing for storage account if you create storage account. So this is a separate pricing. That is something other service, and that's pricing for that service. So yeah, that's just pricing for all the services. So so they're different. Okay, guys. So here, enable firewall for public IP addresses, subnets via service endpoints. So when you are selecting that's the storage your cloud shell is using, correct? Well, that's the overall pricing, because I'm not using any virtual machine right now, but they're giving me pricing here. Oh, but they have seen 2 storage accounts exactly. So yes, this is just pricing of their different products, and one of the products is container registries. But this and this is, the pricing is not related with each other. It's a separate independent pricing for this feature, and separate independent pricing for this feature. But yes, I have 2 storage accounts right now, and 1 container registry we just created. Wow. Hey, already they're gonna charge me 0.29 cents. Okay, guys. So yeah, my youngest kid was here. Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead and that's storage because it's enabled. Yes, it is enabled. That's why it's showing. I have created 2 storage accounts. That's why. And you can enable standard pricing for security center free for 30 days. Yes. Actually, we can because we separately need to come here. So at that time, I'll enable that. So and right now, actually, this service is disabled. Thank God. So I haven't enabled it, and whenever I have a mouse button here, so I tend to click, but I'm trying to control myself because I already got a lot of expenses. But definitely.
No, actually, I meant to say when you created your cloud shell, so this is where it's gonna create your storage account, so we can see the charges of
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
storage,
Okay, that's what you
right?
mean. Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Exactly. That's where we can see the charges. You're right. Pricing and tier, but it is in security center. They are showing the pricing and setting, so it has to be the security of. It's related to. Oh yeah, it is saying 10,000 transactions. So yeah, so why pricing is inside security center? It has to be related to actually the security of the storage account instead of what storage account itself cost if you create one. Okay, guys, but yes, Nazmul, I'll be enabling that when we explore all these options of security center, so I could get the good 30 days from that day. But surely we will be doing that. Okay, guys, so if we go back here, so there, yeah, enable firewall for public IP addresses, subnets via service endpoints. So yeah, they're just saying that when you create VNet, remember that we created 2 subnets there, so better put your containers inside uh, private subnet, suppose, instead of in the public subnet. So don't give direct access to the planet Earth to yours, instances, containers, and also that public IP. So enable firewall for that. So we can do that with um, obviously the ACLs. ACL also allows blocks traffic access control list, right? And also no NSG we can actually network security group we can connect to the subnet. So yes, we can do some protection over the network level. Content trust, push signed images to registry. So that we need to make sure if the images are signed, right? So if you are um, going for Docker Hub here. So here we can just see a lot of in fact, so signed images. If I go for, oh, I didn't sign in actually. Let me sign in. Guys, hey, it used to be free account here, but why is it Docker ID? It's not free, right? Anymore. I had a email and IP no password. Whoa. Oh yeah, you just created a free account, right? So what is Docker ID? It's just your name or something you wanna put there? Okay, I'll just put something here. And I'm not a robot. Okay. I'll just put some. Oh, it's showing the password. Is it? Oh yeah, it is showing the password. I don't want to type that. Ah, okay. Yeah, my password starts with A. Okay, I'll just put some password here, whatever they recommend. It's not letting me put a password here. So notification update, sign up. Yeah, it's already taken. Yeah, I had it. Okay. So not sure what. Oh, that was my Docker ID. Okay. Include notification results. Anyway, so what I was gonna say, if you can log in and try to look for signed images. So if I go for signed, SIGNED, signed Docker images, right? Content trust in Docker. So Docker document, jump to signing images with Docker content trust. Docker trust sign. So sign a tag as a signer given an image using Docker content. Okay, so Docker provides signing feature here as well, and that is called Docker content trust. So whoever is uploading their image should uh, go for that service and do a Docker content trust sign, right? And Docker content trust should make sure that it should scan their own. It should do its own scanning as well, and then others can trust that image to download. So trusting an image could be a big thing. Companies can upload their images of their products and containerized images of their products, and they can just actually purchase a certificate from GoDaddy.com or DigiCert, like $200 up to $2,000, and then attach that certificate, and through that certificate sign the image and then upload it. So if it's a signed image, then download it. Otherwise, there are 100,000, more than 100,000 images there. So check that if they are signed with content Docker content trust. That's one service. Second is that whichever vendor this product is off, they should also sign. So Nazmul has put some link there, and I was gonna go inside and check that. Thank you for checking it for us. So yes, Docker certified Oracle Database Enterprise Edition. So Docker certified, it's signed, and second thing is verified publisher, Docker certified. So if it's Oracle, yeah, and official images. So thank you for showing that. So this would be a good idea to have that relief. But once you do download from Docker certified, obviously you have to run your own scans just to be extra careful. And right now, any security is less security. That's the rule. Or zero trust model. You don't trust anyone, and any security is less secure. Suppose you got the state of the art security, the most expensive package that exists on planet Earth. So it's not enough. That's it. It's not enough. It just ends here. So this means that you will always be on the lookout for, hey, did somebody create a crack for that as well? Because sooner or later somebody will. So you should be ready for that. Okay. Thank you, Nazmul, for sharing that. And so it should be just verified and signed. And there you go. Okay. I'll just go inside. Okay. So content trust push signed images to registry. Now we get to understand, and replication to other regions. So that would be a good thing to just keep a copy of that once you have gone through so much scanning, and security loopholes have been checked, cross-checked if there were any, and none would have been found. Suppose so, you should then protect that image. If that image is placed where anyone can access it, and then actually inject some of their code that after scanning you thought that image was good, but you did not actually put it in a productive area, or you did not secure it. Also just make a copy of that and replicate to other regions. So always just keep an eye on that, because rival companies would send hackers all the time to, hey, just get access to their data and send it to us and we'll give you millions of dollars. So that's how it is. Well, if we go ahead, then it is Kubernetes. So yeah.
Amir sir, just one more question before we go to Kubernetes. Do you know how actually we can pull all those Docker images into the register, Azure register?
Well, I will. Normally we put Docker commands to do that. But I've done that with I actually downloaded it always with the Docker command, and you have to install the Docker software on your machine, and after that you put well, first of all, what I do is Docker pull commands. So you have to install the Docker software and then open the command prompt, and then Docker pull command just simply downloads that image, and then you upload it directly to Azure Registry as well. In fact, I was looking for they try their best to make everything impossible, but I was looking for that upload. Otherwise, normally we can do it with commands as well, to just simply upload that image with proper commands and security. But yes, what I know is that how to go with Docker pull command. That's what I also shown in that 70740 exam lab. But yes, I have to check that too. That how to import it directly from Docker, hub.docker to this. Normally, how would you do that? What we
I saw there are some pull commands beside the image. I mean, but I don't know where to put that pull command in Azure
so
to pull that.
in the Cloud Shell. So through the Cloud Shell,
Okay.
you can put the commands, but you have to mention the destination as well. And the
Yeah.
destination would be that image repository. If you go to overview, so it would have given a DNS link. Oh yeah, there you go. So this is that but you have to have a correct syntax. After that, you just put this destination here, and it should work. But that would be another search away, just one search away. How to maybe you've done it already. How to pull Docker image to Azure Registry. So push and pull Docker image Azure Container Registry. Wow, okay. So, and that's the Microsoft documentation. Both are. So push your first image to a private Docker. So from here to there, from Azure Registry to actually Docker, you want to do that. Import container images to a container registry. So import command should be there. So CLI again, import from public registry, import from Docker Hub. There you go. So this is that. So ACR import is the command name minus hyphen name my registry. So the name of the registry itself minus source docker.io library hello world latest, and then image name. So that would be the syntax. So I'll just put that here. Import from how to import from Docker. But we then have to just do it 3 or 4 tests, and it should be working fine. So how to import image from, I'm just writing it in the WhatsApp as well. Docker, not Docker, it's Docker to your Azure registry, and the link is there, so I'll just put that link here in WebEx, and especially here. Now, yeah, so there are many things that we have to do and test and test and do. So that's one of those. I will have to spend like half an hour, 1 hour, maybe 2 hours. Depends on the errors, how many errors are coming and what needs to be missing. But it's not a complicated thing to do. So hopefully I'll just put some other. But this is an important thing that you're saying, that how to import an image. Although the 3 images, we create 4 containers, right? So 2 containers were for the same image, Nginx, and two other containers were from the Windows image, right? So all four cases we never had imported already those images to our Docker registry, to our Azure Container Registry, right? So this means that uh, whatever image you put there now, suppose there's if it's working, then it's GitHub or from Microsoft has already provided those images. But yes, this is manually. Then how would you do that if you had to import an image for your repository to create your own repository? So yes, then this would be the way. So that's a very important thing as well. Okay, so that's good. Well, normally when I see a command, I normally love to work on it to have its successful version with me. So all those commands that we have, after removing errors, now these are the ones that work, right? Well, no guarantee that after 6 months they will work, because they might change some of the syntax there that are accepted by them. So in that case, but for now they work, right? So, but this is also something that I'm so tempted to do now. Well, after the class, I will try it and try to import from there to here. It's all online. Okay, guys. So that's good that we have added that resource here. So other than that, what is Kubernetes? We have to understand that this is again in DevOps. In whenever you see cloud, uh, and I keep on seeing those new job requirements there, and we have to know what is the new latest market trend, and we only get to know that from latest articles from the vendors, and especially from the job announcements, that what new they want right now, what's in the market right now in terms of tech skills and products. So Kubernetes is there in pretty much many of the job environments, and it might be coming your way in your companies as well. So knowing that is good. Now I was working on those commands there with Kubernetes, and it takes a long time to actually work for the Kubernetes to be created. But what is Kubernetes? First of all, let's just discuss that, and then what kind of security options are there. So first of all, Kubernetes is enterprise level orchestration framework for integrating and managing containers at scale. So right now we can create 4 containers, right? So how about if these are 400 containers? 400. So when you list containers, the list is not finishing, right? So it's taking some time to finish the whole list. And then the boss says, hey, can you patch all the containers? Thank you very much, bye bye. And you're like, what? So you have to have a platform that, suppose, pushes patches to 400 or 4000 containers, that automates their deployment scaling. So automation is offered by Kubernetes, automates deployment, scaling, and management of containerized applications. So on large scale, when you're deploying containers, and scaling means okay, there's one web server container, but you got actually you were anticipating 1000 users, but now you have actually 4000 users, right? And then you have 10,000 users that are connecting regularly. So 1, 2, 3 containers are not good. You need to scale. So you need at least 20 or 30 or 40 containers right now with that same web server. So can you scale? And then management of containerized. In the other class, AWS, we did auto scaling there. So that was very interesting. The machines just duplicate according to CPU usage there, right? So management, but this is container. What we did was auto scale in AWS and scale set in Azure are for virtual machines, to scale the virtual machines, make multiple virtual machines. How about deployment of containers? That same way would be also very interesting. And so management manages multiple containers as one entity for high availability, scaling, and networking. So in one wizard, if you can uh, um, create high availability for thousands of containers. Suppose you want a copy of hundreds of containers on West US while you have them on East US. So can you do that for hundreds of containers in one go, or scale them all? Web servers, 10 of those, SQL Server, 50 of those, and file servers, 20 of those. So load balancers, 3-4 of those, right? So like that, and networking for them. You want to change their network, so you want to put them all hundreds or thousands of containers from one subnet to another subnet. So all that networking that you can do, and open source software managed by the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So Kubernetes is not created by Microsoft. It is an open source software, first of all, but Azure has their version of Azure Kubernetes, and Google Cloud has Google Cloud Kubernetes, and AWS Kubernetes. So they all have this version. It's so famous among companies because of the easy way to deploy containers. It's actually their apps. They can deploy those apps in virtual machines. Now they're preferring for containers, and for that you need to know then Kubernetes as well. So large scale, how do you deploy? That's how what they're talking about. And the architecture of that is this is the container registry where you have all the sample images there, not sample, actual images there, and there is a node that gets created, master node, and then node 1, node 2, node 3. Each node group can have actually they have pods inside, and each pod can have one app, second app, third app, so they can have a lot of containers inside. Each node can have hundreds of containers inside, right? And node 2 and node 3, so you normally create isolations here within the Kubernetes. So node 3 is offering load balancing option, and it's load balancing all the traffic to these applications in node 2 and node 1. So these are just separate isolations there that you create when you run this kubectl command. This is Kubernetes main command. So we're gonna talk about some commands as well. As soon as I'm done, hopefully with the Kubernetes lab as well, I'll try to at least send you that lab, although we need to cover some more topics and so of security. But this is something that you must master, the Kubernetes, and it's not a small subject, it's a big subject. There are full courses on Kubernetes in depth. That's just one course name, right? So we're just treating as a topic, otherwise it's a full separate course. There are courses there.
Site sir, are those nodes, I mean 1, 2, 3 are network boundaries, or how actually all those nodes are separated?
So normally nodes are customer managed, and then cluster. So normally they would create one node, and that is actually they say a virtual machine. Let me just get you the main documentation for that, because they were saying at one place that it's just isolation, and other place normally they were saying that it is actually the virtual machine that is in the background for the nodes. So and that is create that is AWS Kubernetes. So AKS allows you to quickly deploy a production ready Kubernetes cluster in Azure, and then I just wanted to show you the architecture of that. Yeah, baseline architecture for AKS cluster. Yeah. So they will build an infrastructure, Azure Kubernetes Service Workshop. Normally it is supposed to be a virtual machine here, and that virtual machine contains all the system nodes here. But let me just subnet to host. I had a very good diagram here that would, no, this is just pip. Let me just grab that for you. Operational accidents. Oh yeah, I had that here. Sorry, just a second. I needed to show the exact page instead of. Let me just go back to this, because all the links I put there. Yeah. So this is a lab that I was trying to do, and we're in the process of that. But I just wanted to show you that exact diagram, Kubernetes service. So normally it's a virtual machine, but let me just give you a definition for that with architecture. Increased operational. Yeah, this is also not going to give a infrastructure. Cluster 1, cluster 2, pipelines, registry. Nope, that's not it. Okay, so okay, so that's just coming back and forth. But normally these are the virtual machines inside that have that is node 1 and then node 2. The first node is free for you. The second node, third node, you have to pay for that. But these nodes then contain all those you know containers that you have, right? So if I can get that clusters and nodes. So AKS nodes run on Azure virtual machines. There you go. So AKS nodes run on Azure virtual machines. You can connect storage to nodes and pods, upgrade cluster components, and use GPUs. AKS supports Kubernetes clusters that run multiple node pools. So these are node pools to support. Node pools actually have a lot of containers inside, and it could be Linux and Windows, but the main thing is that the nodes are run on top of virtual machines. And but if I can give you the diagram for that, that would be great. Then there is, as demand for resource changes, the number of cluster nodes or pods that run your services can automatically scale up or down. You can use both the horizontal pod autoscaler or the cluster autoscaler there. Normally, you see pod, then you see node there. So these are further isolations inside the virtual machine to give you that separation of environment there. So the main thing is that it will use those under it. It will be virtual machines, but they are then further isolations are there where there's a separation of pod 1, pod 2. Now how can we decide that this is I didn't see the chat for a long time here. Waqas says, what are specs of these node VMs? And then does it say anywhere in this doc? Specs of node VMs, so well, when you create a Kubernetes, it creates a node with it. So the default specs should be there, but you know what? If we can create one here, you will most of the questions will be answered that way. But I just wanted to cover all the slides quickly, and then we can create one. Oh, that's just the security of that. So guys, here you can see that in a cluster there's a node works on top of a virtual machines. After that, there are isolations of part 1 and part 2. One app could be in part 1, one app could be in part 2. When you deploy that and you start playing with it, then obviously you would realize that, oh, okay, that's how the isolation is. But no, it's not network. First of all, it's not subnets. Within a virtual machine, how can we have networks or subnets here? So these are just separations, we can say, isolation that is provided there. But what kind of hardware resources are there? That is when we create a cluster itself, then we can know from there. But that's how the terminology of, first of all, Kubernetes is showing there, and that is that node 1, first node is always free, second, third node, they charge you for that if you need more, and you can just create some containers inside. I will try to come up with a Kubernetes lab. It's just that it's a bit lengthy lab. It takes few minutes just for the Kubernetes to actually get created. A few minutes that it takes just to do that. So other than that, if I go inside here, Azure, in the Azure and Kuber, so see this, there's a container services and then there's a Kubernetes services, right? Within Azure as well. So if you click that Kubernetes services and click the add button, add Kubernetes cluster. So it creates a cluster which is just comprised of one node, because you're expanding, you're later going to expand. I have the commandlets for that, but well, the GUI also shows there. So if I click the add Kubernetes services here, so Azure Kubernetes service, okay, So Azure Kubernetes service manages your hosted Kubernetes environment, making it quick and easy to deploy and manage containerized applications without container orchestration expertise. So you don't have to be an expert in large scale container management because Kubernetes is supposed to handle all those. So it also eliminates the burden of ongoing operations and maintenance by provisioning, upgrading, and scaling resources on demand. So without taking any or your applications offline. So yes, it just manages thousands of or hundreds of applications there. So we understand that, we read about it. So if we can select the resource group here and then Kubernetes cluster name, you have to come up with some cluster name here. So your first name, suppose dash KC Kubernetes cluster, and then something like okay, orange. I'll just go for unique name here. So and then Canada Central, I'll just go for East US quickly to create one. Guys, it might take longer time. So primary node pool, the number and size of nodes in the primary node pool in your cluster. For production workloads, at least 3 nodes are recommended for resiliency. So one node having, suppose, 3 containers. Other node can have the copies of containers, and the other node, or you can spread the containers across 3 nodes. If one node goes down, at least you have all the containers are not affected because of that. Okay, so well, yeah, sure. Okay, I will try that. There was a question asked privately. Everyone, so then ask openly, right? Yeah, so Vikas is saying that, hey, can we do Kubernetes? Sure. Okay, I will try to arrange that lab if there are not enough errors coming. So sure, we'll do that, because from last time this is also not pretty much all my scripts are some of my scripts are actually not working. Because of that, other scripts are not working. So definitely I'll have to come up with what's the change they did. So sure, I will try my best to get a Kubernetes lab up and running as well. So yeah, so we were talking about, for development or test workloads, only one node is required. So this one node will be created on top of a virtual machine here. You will not be able to change the node size after cluster creation, but you will be able to change the number of nodes in your cluster. So node size, what do you want? Do you want a heavy node? So why would you select a heavy node? Obviously, if you have a container that has SQL Server, or you're supposed to deploy 3 or 4 containers with file server, web server, 2 web servers there, 1 load balancer. So it depends on what kind of processing and RAM they will take. So decide the size of that with the first node, right? So they do offer you that, hey, now decide, but later you cannot change the CPU and RAM of the first node, right? And if you would like additional node pools, node pool mean that obviously you can have a lot of collection of nodes there with a lot of containers inside. So you will need to enable the X feature on the scale tab, which will allow you to add more node pools after creating a cluster. So there's an X feature there that means that you can have more nodes, or how many you can just decide there. So node size here, standard DS2 V2. So this is DS2 V2, I think is why am I thinking, if I click change size here, DS2 V2 is 2 vCPUs and 7 GB RAM. Okay, not bad. So I'll just go back. And node count, so they're saying minimum 3. Well, actually recommended is 3 for resiliency, but we have required is 1 node, right? So if they're creating 3 nodes, can I make it 1 and they will let me go? Actually, there's no error here. So yes. Okay, but they're saying that go for 3. So I'm just going to go for node pools here. And in the node pool, in addition to the required primary node pool configured on the basics tab, you can also add optional node pools to handle a variety of workloads, right? So if I click that learn more here, what's the recommendation? So Azure Kubernetes, okay, nodes of the same in AKS, nodes of the same configuration are grouped together into node pool. So nodes of the same configuration are grouped together into node pools. So these node pools contain the underlying VMs. So underlying, it's just the virtual machines that run your applications. The initial number of nodes and their size SKU is defined when you create an AKS cluster, which creates a system node pool to support. So if their node pools are exactly if 2 or 3 nodes have exactly the same configuration, they are called node pools. This means that if you have different node configuration, then they will not be grouped together into a node pool, right? But you can see some CLI commands here to create a node pool as well. I'm just going to go back here and so virtual nodes allow burstable scaling backend by serverless Azure container instances. Normally, what you're doing in Kubernetes is the serverless task, which means that you're not worried about underlying hardware and operating system. You're just running that container and application, right? And especially application. So that is also called serverless. So it says that node count is 3, and there's an agent pool that is created. Agent pool is just for that this hardware will be this much CPU and this much RAM will be provided to each node here, and then there are virtual nodes that it says is enabling virtual nodes allows you to deploy or burst out containers to nodes backed by serverless Azure container instances. This can provide fast burst scaling options beyond your defined cluster size. So it's just saying that you want to deploy large number of nodes fast, then you can just select this option, and virtual nodes will help with Azure Container Instances service. The full name is Serverless Azure Container Services. This service will help you deploy more containers in less amount of time. So VM scale set, enabling VM scale sets will create a cluster that uses VM scale set. So VM scale set is if the CPU increases, the virtual machines will increase in number automatically, right? So just like auto scaling in AWS. So VM scale set instead of individual virtual machines for the cluster. So if you are using virtual machines, so in the background, so they can also increase in number. So on top of the virtual machines, whatever number of nodes are there, then can be increased later. So underlying virtual machines have to be automatically increased as well if there's huge traffic, right? If there's huge demand for that. So ultimately, we know that nodes are created on top of virtual machines. So enabling VM scale sets will create a cluster that uses VM scale sets instead of individual virtual machines. For the cluster nodes, VM scale sets are required for scenarios including auto scaling, multiple node pools, and Windows support. So yeah, if it's large environment and you expect it to go larger, then yes, it's better to support VM scale set, and it's already enabled actually. Seriously, by default it is enabled. So VM scale sets are required for multiple node pools. So since you selected 3, this means you may have a bigger environment. So, well, that's it. Wakat says here, actually I thought you are going to start Kubernetes lab now, and we only have 20-25 minutes left in class. So I was saying if we are starting new lab for Kubernetes, we can just start fresh in next class. Oh, okay, that's what you're saying. Well, yeah, we have 14 minutes, and in fact, I was gonna say that too, because there's authentication, networking, integrations, tags, and review plus create, and then I will have to repeat that whole thing again anyway. So okay guys, yeah, this is long one, and we can do it later as well. We got 14 minutes now, so we can actually use this time to delete. But yeah, it is a long one. After 5 or 6 minutes, I was gonna say, guys, let's do it in next class, because we will have to leave in the middle. Then I have to repeat everything again in next class. But this is one of the most critical topics, but there are some more important security topics coming your way. So and yeah, within this month we will be finishing this course. So guys, I'm just gonna close this, and let's try to delete then all our containers. My suggestion is to make sure that you are playing with the containers and you're comfortable with the containers, right? So Nazim says basically AKS used for scaling containers, I believe. Scaling, large scale deployment, yeah, large scale management, large scale automation. So yeah, scaling would have a lot inside as well. It's not just multiplying containers. Suppose you have multiplied it to 4,000 containers. So can we manage it? Can we run some automation? Can we make some modification in all 4,000 at the same time? So yes, it properly manages large amount of containers in whatever modification you want, whatever automation you want, and you want to deploy more, you want to remove more. So yeah, everything is done by Kubernetes. Okay guys, so let's go to portal menu here and go to resource groups, and then delete our resource group. And actually you need to delete the Cloud Shell as well, unless you want to play with it. That's another thing. So now you have the commands to bash commands to really create containers, but Kubernetes is a bit of different story. It's more complicated. So I'm just going to go to the today's resource group and delete this. So we had, oh, this was the Kubernetes. Oh, container registry. Yeah, I was thinking that this icon is for not for containers. So this was for registry. So one registry and 4 containers are deleting. So yeah, we'll then try to deploy Kubernetes as well, and then we're going to go for monitor and other topics of security. Cloud Shell, I'll just go for Cloud Shell as well and delete that at the same time as well. We can create Cloud Shell next time as well, but the storage, if it's free for 30 days, then you can just keep it, otherwise I'm deleting it. Okay, so yeah, that's gonna take time. So okay, I'll stop the video now and